What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was forced to train under the hot alien girl? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto was panting heavily while carrying an unconscious Sasuke on his back, as blood leaked from the side of his mouth, coughing heavily every few seconds due to the blood that flooded his lungs from the Chidori that the Uchiha had hit him with. It was close, but after changing the trajectory of the Rasengan at the last minute had allowed the blonde to knock his opponent into the statue of Uchiha Madara, and into involuntary nap land. Damn Teme. When we get back, I'm requesting you go on a diet because you're too damn heavy, said Naruto, as stumbled while nearing the gates, and barely held the boy on his back to make it there. The instant Naruto made it into the gates, he saw the crowd of people awaiting for him, and the blonde thought that this time he had won the hearts of the village. After all the crap he put up with growing up, maybe they would see that he was not the monster they made the poor blonde out to be, and see that Uzumaki Naruto was not the Kyuubi. Sadly, Naruto was more wrong than they were. Look what the demon did to the Uchiha. Kill him. Kill the demon to avenge the Uchiha, called out one civilian while more cried out for the same thing and began to move to attack the boy while saving the Uchiha at the same time. Or they would have, if not for the barrier of sand that swarmed to protect the blonde, and Gaara now standing beside him looking very angry. Come Naruto-san, I will assist you in taking the Uchiha to the hospital, and provide the needed protection from these idiots, said Gaara, as he used his sand to take them to the hospital while the mob crying out for justice, and followed the two demon vessels. Konoha Hospital. Sometime later, Tsunade looked down at the bandaged broken body of the blonde that lay on the medical bed in front of her, as she saw the injuries the Uchiha gave the boy, and the Chidori to the chest that filled the Sannin turned Hokage with rage at their shared sensei. Who was she kidding? Hitaki didn't teach Naruto crap aside from tree walking, and then there was the academy's teachers clearly disliking the boy enough to disrupt his learning. Something she would clearly change when this was over. At least the Gaki didn't die like Dan or Nawaki due to that damn necklace. Seems you are strong enough to break its curse, Naruto, thought Tsunade, as she left to take care of the traitor, but had made it clear that only Shizune and herself would look after Naruto. She didn't trust them any further than the necklace Naruto wore. If anything, she trusted the necklace more, and the people in the village less if what Gaara told her was true. As she left Naruto to heal, Sakura was visiting the Uchiha at the exact same time to see the boy had a few cuts, bruises, and a few broken bones from slamming into that statue at high speed via Rasengan. Aside from that, Sasuke seemed fine and stable thanks to being heavily sedated, though the scowl on the Uchiha's face didn't seem to want to leave. Poor Sasuke. Look at all these injuries. This is all Naruto Baka's fault. Well, when I see him, I'm going to show him the meaning of pain and pound that Baka into paste, thought Sakura, as she touched Sasuke's face affectionately, and pulled her hand back when the door opened to reveal an angry Tsunade glaring daggers at her crush. So, here lies the almighty traitor Uchiha Sasuke, and in all his proud spoiled glory. How pathetic, said Tsunade, as she checked the boy over, and ignored the pink-haired girl's glare. Hokage-sama, please come quick. There is a mob at the hospital doors and they are all demanding the Uzumaki boy be killed, said a nurse, who was one of the rare ones that didn't hate Naruto, and saw the Sannin scowling even further. That does it. I have had it with these fools, said Tsunade, as she walked past the nurse and to the front entrance of the hospital. Why couldn't they leave the poor boy alone? Secret council chambers. Sometime later. Do we have the fire daimyo's approval? Said Homura, as he saw Danzo nod his head, and produce the orders signed by the fire daimyo himself with the seal to prove it. Yes. The lies we told him have secured our actions to go completely unopposed in this matter, and soon after we will have the ultimate secret weapon capable of making us the superior village in all the elemental countries, said Danzo, as he told his allies in this to set up a much-needed council meeting with the Hokage and the clan heads to make sure they got what they needed. Soon, the village would be his, and then all of the elemental countries would follow. 3 days later. Why have you called a meeting for? You realize I have important patients waiting for me at the hospital, and Uchiha to keep in check for his traitorous actions, and let's not forget the very boy you all hate responsible for bringing him back to the leaf instead of into Orochimaru's boy-loving arms, said Tsunade, as she saw them scowl at her for that, and almost instantly it went away with a sense of calmness in them, like they still had the upper hand in something. Yes, speaking of that boy being responsible for some things, it has come to our attention by the fire daimyo himself that Uzumaki Naruto be banished immediately from the leaf right after he is cleared to leave the hospital, said Danzo, as he was going right for the preverbal jugular, and getting the boy as soon as possible. What? On what grounds is this even being allowed? Said Tsunade, as she was given the scroll, and read the contents within it before unleashing killer intent at them for the clear lies that were written in this thing over the reasons the boy should be banished. Fighting Leaf civilians. Fighting Leaf shinobi. Insubordination of Leaf shinobi of Chunin rank or higher. Conspiring with enemies of the Leaf. Failure to kill enemies of the Leaf. Damaging property within the Leaf. Disrespecting the authority of the Hokage. Okay, that last one Tsunade could see was partially true, but only in terms of calling her old sensei old man, and for herself being called granny. But that was it. As you can see, the fire daimyo is less than pleased with just how Naruto is being left uncontrolled in the village, and has seen fit to remove the boy from the leaf entirely. But the man is merciful, as if you notice that the man has also decreed that if the blonde has shown some form of control over his life during his banishment, he will be allowed back into Konoha, and reinstated as a shinobi of the leaf, said Danzo, as he smirked at the way he manipulated this, and knew that soon after the boy was properly conditioned he would write a new report for the feudal lord telling of his monitoring of the demon brat's progress in being more disciplined. Soon after, Naruto would be unleashed on Tsunade, and by that time the old warhawk knew that the slug princess would not have the strength to fight the blonde. These are lies. Naruto has been fighting civilians? More like they've been fighting him. Arguing with Leaf shinobi? How about getting his so-called sensei to train him and get someone else less suited for it? I'm going to appeal his decision, said Tsunade, as she saw they were a little irked by this, and hadn't expected her to put up a fight on the matter with the blonde. Still, appeals of the fire daimyo's decisions take weeks, months, and even years with so many events to block paperwork from being processed. It is your right to do so, Hokage-sama, but until then, the boy has to be banished, and if he is not out of the village shortly after he's recovered will be considered an enemy of the leaf before being executed, said Kaharu, as she saw Tsunade looking ready to smash her head clean off her body, and resisted the urge to squeeze her hands together under the table. And what of Uchiha Sasuke? Don't tell me he is going to just get a slap on the wrist just because he's the last Uchiha within the village, said Tsunade, who saw the two councils about to speak on that subject when Hiyashi rose from his seat, and glared at everyone to hold their tongues. No, Hokage-sama, since Uchiha Sasuke is part of a clan, this falls under clan matters, and all clan matters are handled by clans of the leaf when one does harm to others. The Uchiha's traitorous actions threatens the clans within Konoha and he will judged by us and pay for his crimes by our ruling, said Hiyashi, as he saw the two councils protest this, and silenced them with his Byakugan pulsing from his eyes. Really? Then what is your decision regarding him if I may ask? Said Tsunade, as she saw many of them smirk, and it was Inuzuka Sume rising this time. We the clan heads, hereby remove Uchiha Sasuke of his clan rights along with that of his clan from having status in the leaf, and demote him down to that of what he would most likely consider commoner status. In addition, the Uchiha estates are to be taken down to be paved way for new housing projects, and help the village fill the hole that Uchiha Itachi made when killing all the former clan. Also, all funds within the Uchiha's bank accounts will be seized, and divided up among the clan heads with an equal portion going to all of us, said Sume, as she felt the acts of the Uchiha were unforgivable, as her clan prided itself on loyalty, and such things need to be dealt with swiftly. This is not fair. Uchiha Sasuke was manipulated by that demon fox and Orochimaru, said a civilian councilman, as he saw Tsunade glaring at him, and made the man quiver in fear. While I disagree with the first part of your statement, I won't deny that the curse seal my former teammate gave Sasuke did give the boy a hard push in the range of psychotic behavior, and even as we speak Jiraiya is sealing it away in a more effective manner with the boy's bloodline to follow given the clan head's ruling in this matter, said Tsunade, as she saw the two councils protesting this, and were silenced by her fist hitting the table. Damn, if I try to overrule Tsunade's decision by going to the fire daimyo now, she'll use it to appeal the decision regarding the Kyuubi brat, and challenge it with proof I do not have other than the words of few spiteful villagers, thought Danzo, as he knew that alone was not enough to keep the fire daimyo from changing his decision, and probing deeper into the hole he had dug for himself if caught. Though Danzo had no intention of getting caught. This meeting is now adjourned. I have to see my patients, and for one of them, I have to break his heart knowing this village backstabbed him for his loyalty. You just better pray this doesn't come back to bite you all in the ass, said Tsunade, as she left to carry out her duties, and one she was going to hate so very much. Hospital several days later. Hey Naruto, how does it feel to be the one to complete such a troublesome high-ranked mission? Said Shikamaru, as he came to see his good friend, and winced inwardly at his bandaged condition. Not bad though the food tastes horrible. Why, want to switch places? Said Naruto, as he saw Shikamaru wave his hands up defensively, and answer with a no to the question. As much as I would like to be on a bed looking at a ceiling so I can picture clouds, I will pass due to the beating you got, and just leave it at that, said Shikamaru, as he saw the blonde laugh, and then saw Naruto wincing in pain a bit. How did Sakura take the news? Is she happy? Said Naruto, as he saw Shikamaru raise an eyebrow at the notice of him not using the chan suffix with the girl's name, and before he could respond the door to the room was kicked open with the said girl looking very angry with him. You, how dare you do that to Sasuke-kun? I asked you to bring him back Naruto Baka, not crush his body into powder, said Sakura, as she was livid, and shocked both boys in the room since Naruto was more injured than Sasuke was. I had to fight him Sakura. If I didn't, he would have escaped the sound, and gone straight to Orochimaru, said Naruto, who saw Sakura wasn't listening, and looked like she was going to kill him. Shut up Baka, just shut up you worthless Baka. I hate you, I hate everything about you. You're nothing, always will be nothing, do everybody a favor and just die, said Sakura, as she yelled the last part before cocking her hand back to slap him, but was stopped by Shikamaru using his shadow possession jutsu, and stopped the limb from connecting. Are you crazy? Naruto is in worse shape than Sasuke because unlike your oh so precious Uchiha a few corners down, he held back, and only used his skills to knock the traitor unconscious, said Shikamaru, as he used his jutsu to pull Sakura back, and now began to call for help. I don't care, said Sakura, as she tried to fight the shadow possession jutsu, and Naruto trying to find a way to get away from her despite his injuries. Well you should, said Gaara, as he had heard the cries for help, and after assisting the Hokage in scaring away the angry mob of Naruto haters had come here to see the blonde. Only to find this happening. How fitting, a monster helping out another monster. I hope you two go to hell, said Sakura, as she was finally released from Shikamaru's jutsu, and left while glaring at the blonde in the room before leaving its presence. Damn, this is why I keep telling people women are troublesome, but does anyone take me seriously, or even believe me when I tell them that? No, said Shikamaru, as he sat down in a nearby chair, and sighed heavily while looking at Naruto with a depressed face like someone had told him his parents died. Naruto's apartment. When Naruto arrived cautiously at his so-called home, as he saw that it had amazingly been untouched by the villagers, and when he entered saw Hitaki Kakashi now looking quite serious when the Junin turned to face him. Naruto of course was on guard and got ready to substitute himself with one of his shadow clones already dispatched throughout the village should his so-called sensei try anything. Naruto, I need you to come with me to speak to the Hokage. I need you to convince her to stop Jiraiya-sama from sealing away Sasuke's Sharingan eyes, said Kakashi, as he saw Naruto look at him with angry stare, and it confused the Junin. You want me to ask Granny to spare that Teme? After what he did to me? Sasuke put not one, but two Chidoris through my chest sensei, and I do believe you were the only one outside of the Uchiha clan to make one. Why the hell would I even help you keep him active when his mind is already off the reservation? Said Naruto, as he saw Kakashi's eyes widen, and then narrow at him while balling his fists in anger. Because he is your teammate Naruto. I thought you were thick in the skull, but now I find out you're worse of a baka than I thought, and now I see you are lower than trash, said Kakashi, as he begins to walk out, but is stopped by a bone-crushing grip by Naruto now covered in aura of orange, and slammed hard into the wall before the blonde stared at him with anger written all over his face. I am lower than trash? I am lower than trash? I saved your ass from Momochi Zabuza when Sasuke quivered up in a ball like baby. I saved Inari's family from Gato's thugs while you were getting your ass handed to you on the bridge. I inspired the people of Wave to fight for what was theirs. I stopped Subabaku no Gaara from unleashing his demon, which was going to destroy the village, all the while Sasuke looked on in fear. Should I keep going on or should I keep burying you further in guilt? I have worked my hands to the bone for this village while Sasuke gets all the credit and you train him while I get shafted through the whole deal. And for what? The Tamiz Sharingan. Why? An old debt that needs to be repaid by your dear dead Uchiha of a friend, who probably would have made a better sensei than you, and wouldn't have played favorites. I'm not the one who is the trash here, Hitaki. You are, said Naruto before kneeing the shocked man right in the gut, and made the Junin fall to his knees coughing through his mask before removing it to puke on the floor. Bravo Kit. The one good thing you've done with my power aside from beating that damn Uchiha brat with it, said Kyuubi, as he had awakened from its slumber just in time to see its vessel do this while drawing on the demonic chakra. Yeah well, get used to it Fox. I'm going to make the people of Konoha cry in their sleep and wailing like babies to have me back in the leaf to defend them, thought Naruto, as he made some more clones to help gather his stuff, and saw Kakashi looking up at him with his one wide eye. What are you doing Naruto? Said Kakashi, as he saw the small group of Narutos begin packing things up, and Original looking even angrier at him. You don't know? Kami, you are so stupid, it's practically pathetic that you are so focused on the Uchiha, which has blinded you to the point that you are able to ignore me this much. Hell, the decision to have me banished from the leaf came first, and the Uchiha's punishment in having his bloodline sealed came second. Yet here you are to have me save the traitor from his punishment without even knowing, much less caring to find out about the very person, your own student you neglected, who brought him back in the first place, and even worse called, lower than trash, to my face, said Naruto, as he laughed a hollow laugh before looking at his clones to see they had finished, and left the room after the Original spit on the ground in front of Kakashi. Naruto was so angry with Kakashi and Kakashi was in such a daze that neither one noticed the shadow figure of a certain Hyuga girl having heard the entire conversation via open window with a nearby tree having a branch extending close by. Naruto-kun is being banished? No, thought Hinata, as she rushed off to the Hokage's office, and would demand an explanation from her. Hinata had been happy that Naruto came back alive with Uchiha Sasuke, and the simple fact he came back alive at all was enough to make her heart leap with joy 8,000 times over. However, the joy left when Hinata saw the angry mob forming to attack Naruto before Gaara intervened, and took the two boys to the hospital to be treated for their injuries. She didn't know why they acted like that towards Naruto. Even when she was a child, Hinata saw only goodness in the boy's heart, and wanting to become strong to protect everyone around him. Now here Hinata was, hearing how after all that had happened in such a short time, the boy she admired for long found inspiration, and even a Nindo to believe in was being kicked out of the village for succeeding in his mission. It didn't make sense in the girl's eyes, and the only one that could possibly even remotely help Hinata make sense of it was the Hokage herself. 2 days later, Naruto sighed heavily as he was now outside of the village, having said his goodbyes to those that matter. Lee had to be restrained from going ballistic as well as sedated with enough tranquilizer to put down an elephant, and was now out on his own without any kind of protection against his enemies, within and without, wanting him dead. It was fine with Naruto, as he could finally go out, find people to train him in different arts, and get stronger so he could show those assholes what it means to kick out a hero of the leaf. At least I've got you, Fox. You may be a demon, but if I die, then you die, and if you want to survive you better help me get stronger. You don't want the Shinigami to get the last laugh, do you? Thought Naruto, as he leapt his way from tree to tree since he didn't trust the roads, and felt more at home in the trees anyway. Point taken Kit. Not to mention, I have a score of my own to settle, and you are going to help me make it happen, said Kyuubi, but the last part was more to himself than to Naruto, and was quite pleased with his vessel as of late. Such thoughts were ended when a volley of shuriken came to Naruto's left, which the blonde dodged by ducking behind a nearby tree, and peeked out to see the direction the weapons were thrown. Narrowing his eyes, the young blonde saw the squad of Anbu with the kanji for root written on it, and the captain of this squad had his sword out. Uzumaki Naruto, by the orders of Danzo, we are here to bring you to him for a secret position within his organization, and turn you into a secret weapon for the good of the leaf, said the root captain, as he waited for the blonde to make his decision, and got ready to fight if Naruto decided to resist. Really? Well, you can just tell that Baka Danzo he can kiss the fattest part of my ramen-loving Kyuubi sealed with an ass, said Naruto, as he had been readying an explosive tag during the man's talking, and threw it in the direction of the root captain before taking off deeper into the trees. The tag went off before hitting the root captain, which was Naruto's intention from the start, as it would cause the group to scatter, and by the time they could form some way of regrouping it would allow him to get farther away from his pursuers. The plan didn't last very long though, as the root Anbu coming after him were catching up quickly, and were now in the process of attacking him with various jutsus once they saw a chance to aim them at his back. We need a plan, Kit. Your body is still not 100% and to fight them would only make things worse, said Kyuubi, as he saw his vessel was still in need of another full day in terms of healing, and to do that required not being attacked by anyone the whole time. Don't I know it? Damn, Tami's Chidori is still causing some pain in my chest, thought Naruto, as he dodged a fireball jutsu, and then a water cannon jutsu that shattered a tree near him. Earth style. Ground shifting jutsu, said the root captain, as he moved from the trees, and had dived to the ground to use the jutsu that uprooted the trees around Naruto. The blonde was thrown off his tree just moments after his feet had touched the branch, with the end result sending Naruto skidding until he landed near a cliff with the bottom looking bottomless and dark. Naruto saw it, as he saw the root shinobi all surrounding him now in a half-circle formation, with his choice of death being at the hands of them, or the fall from the cliff below. Fox, quick question. If I fall from this cliff, is there a chance I'll survive, and avoid being caught by these guys? Thought Naruto, as he saw Kyuubi look at him with narrow eyes, and looking quite unhappy right now. What kind of question is that? Granted, dying from falling off the cliff would be better than dying at their hands, but I will not have that even be considered an option, and demand that you fight them to the end, said Kyuubi, as the fox was more than ready to give the blonde enough of its chakra to wipe them out, and claim victory by killing every single one of those around them. All right, thought Naruto, as he quickly made shadow clones, and began to engage the root shinobi around him. The battle, while difficult, seemed to be going slowly in Naruto's favor, as he kept making shadow clones to overwhelm his opponents, and was even killed a few of them after a bit of synchronizing with his clones to strike vital spots with kunai. The root captain was struck by the original via Rasengan, which sent the man flying into fallen trees behind him, but even as that happened, the root shinobi had thrown an explosive tag at the ground where Naruto was, and sent the blonde flying over the cliff after Naruto tried to get away. By this point, the Naruto shadow clones were dispersed by the explosion, and any hope of substituting with them was lost to the blonde, and fell off the cliff while trying to use Kyuubi's chakra to grab onto the wall. However, the Kyuubi's chakra was too strong to grip onto anything, and his body was picking up speed that it was making things even more difficult. Then everything went dark for Naruto, as he was swallowed up into the darkness below, and it was all the boy saw for some time. Konoha at the moment. The people had partied the instant word got out about Naruto's banishment, which was mere minutes after the blonde's body was out of the village's walls, and cheering on about how they were free of the demon spawn. However, the day after the party, things started to go bad for everyone in the village that hated Naruto, and many were now weeping out in misery. When Naruto was getting ready to leave the leaf, his shadow clones had been hard at work making sure that the people of Konoha did not enjoy his leaving, and their cries of joy would turn into cries of sorrow. The first thing he had his shadow clones do was do a little plumbing work in the various homes, business, and other buildings within the leaf to go off at a set time. As such, all natural waste would be either clogged, rerouted, and stored in places people wouldn't expect to have their fecal matter unleashed upon them. When people went to take showers, use sinks to wash hands, and to anything short of walking, they were hit with the very waste from the previous day of partying. That wasn't the end of it though, as Naruto wouldn't be Naruto if he didn't do more than that, and he did just that by backing up the sewer system throughout Konoha. With such high pressure of backed up plumbing, the ground underneath the village had exploded at several key street junctions, and caused the natural waste of the village to spray everywhere. In short, Naruto had made the people in the village feel quite literally what he had felt figuratively his whole life by the people in the village, and was regret ever treating him in that manner. Like shit. To further express his anger at the village, Naruto had his shadow clones plant various stink bombs mixed with hard-to-remove paint-based explosives in various buildings that would go off on a timer. When the bombs went off, the shops that kicked him out, or had overcharged Naruto absurd prices for crappy quality equipment were ruined to the point of tearing the buildings down, though given the war the Leaf was in would cause a lot of red tape since funding would be halted for such construction projects to gear the village up for war. In short, those business would either have to put up with the damage, not to mention the stink, or shut down their business for good. Not to mention that Naruto had gotten a hold of certain shops' bookkeeping records they had in their safes and placed them on Tsunade's desk to look at with a note telling her to compare them with the Leaf's own overall financials. It helped when Naruto had looked at the books himself with Kyuubi helping him to highlight certain portions of the book that looked off. Now said people, some were civilian council members, were in her office sweating like pigs, looking like children caught by their mother looking at a dirty magazine, and some were stammering words like children would when caught. Some couldn't even speak in clear sentences, but those that did mumbled, or were speaking in gibberish to Tsunade's presence with Shizune beside her awaiting for a response. They would have gotten a better one from Taunton if she were drunk. I've been going over these records of yours from the shops you run from a very good individual, who brought this to my attention, and do you know what I find when I read them? You have been writing numbers that don't add up to what the Leaf records hold, and I noticed a specific pattern in all of them. You've been selling poor quality goods at outrageous prices and all to one person no longer in the village responsible for making you feel quite literally and the shit you made him feel like figuratively. I don't know why the Sandame let you get away with this, but knowing him, you kept it away from his old heart since it would have put a good deal of strain on his person, and for that I'm inclined not to charge you with treason. What I am charging you with, however, is extortion, fraud, corruption, and various other charges that land you quite a few sessions with Ibiki with Anko soon following afterwards before I throw you away in a prison surrounded by all sorts of people that hate the Leaf. By the time you are let out, which is a really big if, you will either be leaving there in a body bag, or wish to Kami you had, said Tsunade, as she saw the weak little people now before her sputtering, pleading, and begging that she reconsider such an action. As if they deserve mercy, thought Shizune, as she saw Tsunade narrowing her eyes at them, and finally slam her fist down in anger at having enough of their false begging for forgiveness. Silence. I have had enough of your bitching to me when you don't deserve a single ounce of it. Anbu, take these maggots out of my sight and tell Ibiki to go all out on them. Don't forget to tell Anko the same damn thing, said Tsunade, as she saw the group crying out still for mercy, and being led away by the Anbu. It's going to take a long time to clean up the mess Naruto left behind. People even now are cursing him, wishing him to die, and even worse is that when people tried to destroy his home they set off some kind of tripwire that caused the apartment complex to blow up with debris scattering everywhere on everyone near it. A large group of people are in the hospital from the building debris mixed with shards of glass, and some have broken bones from having larger portions of rubble fall on them, said Shizune, as she saw her teacher now Hokage narrow her eyes dangerously in deep thought, and then get up from her chair to walk towards the window to look at the populace below now suffering. Doesn't matter, Shizune, they can have all the doctors Naruto had at the hospital, who were always delayed, and give them piss-poor medication. By the time Naruto comes back, these people will be on their hands and knees begging the Gaki for forgiveness, said Tsunade, as she saw very few places were spared Naruto's wrath, and those were the homes of the ones that Naruto called friends. I hear Gaara is angry with us and is going to pull away from the alliance before telling the Wind Daimyo everything. No doubt every other place in the elemental countries will get wind of this and raise a figurative stink to this before complaining to the Fire Daimyo in letting this happen, said Shizune, as she saw Tsunade smirk at that, and knew that this would help speed up the appeals process in getting Naruto back in Konoha. Those Baka Council members think that they have everything figured out in removing Naruto from the Leaf, but they forget that Naruto is a hero to people outside the village, and those people are very influential people. If they cut ties with Fire Country, then the Fire Daimyo will come here, asking us why so many people now hate him for authorizing Naruto's banishment, and want answers that he's not going to like, said Tsunade, as she saw from her window one food store she knew had once sold rotten food to the blonde now covered in various forms of waste, and making the food worthless to everyone. Speaking of which, some of them want you to send out an Anbu team to kill Naruto, and claim him to be an enemy of Konoha for this, said Shizune, as she saw Tsunade frown at this, and let out a huff before stomping over to her chair to sit down. The only team I would send would be the rookies, and only after the banishment has been removed by the Fire Daimyo, said Tsunade, as she went back to doing her work, and wished the blonde the best of luck. Unknown location, time frame unknown. Naruto opened his eyes, as consciousness finally came back to him, and saw darkness all around him while pulling himself up from the ground. At first, the blonde thought he was in his mindscape again, like that time he was pushed off that cliff by Jiraiya to activate the fox's power, and wondered if he was brought here by the fox to get yelled at again. However, what Naruto soon realized was that he was in fact not in his mindscape, but rather semi-deep within the gaping hole at the bottom of the cliff he fell down, and had landed on what felt to him like metal. Looking around while trying to adjust his eyes, Naruto looked around to see he was on a large metal object, and after some stumbling found a way into the strange structure. Wow, this place is incredible. I've never seen anything like this before, thought Naruto, as he saw the inside of structure, and the weird designs of some strange culture. I don't believe it. I thought they were all gone or destroyed, said Kyuubi, as he saw what Naruto saw, and recognized these markings along with what they were really in. You know something about this, Kyuubi? Thought Naruto, as he sensed the fox nod, and was about to hear an explanation on the subject. Indeed, long ago, before the elemental countries existed, there was a race of beings from beyond the stars, who hunted only the most worthy of beings for sport and honor of their clans, with the latter not unlike what you find in some shinobi villages today. They were known as Yautja. They used to come to this world to prey on human and any other species this world had to offer that they felt was worthy of hunting, said Kyuubi, as he saw weapons, masks, and other things this ship had to offer. But you thought they were all gone or destroyed. What did you mean by that? Thought Naruto, as he felt there was more to it than that, and was now looking at a device on the wall that deemed to have a glowing light inside of it that was too tempting to ignore. I meant here on this planet. When me and my kind first roamed the world, the Yautja had soon come to the realization this world was too much even for them. What's more, the human race had learned to use chakra, and had altered the way things were done, since any Yautja caught would use a powerful bomb to blow themselves up. So they decided to quarantine the planet and listed it off limits for any future hunts due to the many threats the planet's more dangerous species was for them, said Kyuubi, as he saw Naruto nodding in understanding, and found it good to know the boy was actually paying attention. There are so many things here that could give any shinobi a run for their money. Could I learn how to use this, Kyuubi? Thought Naruto, as he saw some of the items here were not so badly damaged by time like one would think. Possibly. This ship seems to have been the last one to be here before the quarantine was set up. Must have happened right after Kyuubi was sealed and chakra was used by the Sage of the Six Paths. The weapons here are meant to last for a long time even after being used in constant battles, so everything should be in top condition, said Kyuubi, who saw Naruto nod, and again look at the device on the wall before walking towards it with a strong desire to look in it. But will I be able to use it? Much less a fraction of it, thought Naruto, as he looked into the hole of the device on the wall, which morphed into something else, and then grabbed his skull with metallic hands while a chair rose from the ground underneath him that now forced the blonde to sit down with both his hands now being restrained. What did you do, Kit? Said Kyuubi, as it saw what was happening, and wondered what was about to happen to its vessel. Nothing, I swear. I don't suppose you would know what this thing is that's latched onto my face, thought Naruto, as he felt something pierce his skin along the veins of his arm, and felt something being injected into his body. Kyuubi for its part was checking its own memory for what the boy was now about to be subjected to in terms of Yautja technology and going on the way Naruto was being held down along with the device attached to its vessel's face. It didn't take long, as Kyuubi did indeed know what it was that Naruto was in, and didn't know if this was good thing or a very bad thing. Kit, this is a Yautja initiation device. There came a time when certain humans and other intelligent creatures would be considered worthy of being part of the Yautja race. This device would inject certain compatible species with Yautja blood to make them part Yautja, give them enhanced speed, strength, and even seem like they do, said Kyuubi, as he already felt the alien blood mixing with Naruto's own, and the seal on its vessel was actually helping the compatibility while the device on the blonde's face began downloading information into the boy's head. It hurts. It feels like I'm having a huge book the size of you being shoved right down my throat, thought Naruto, as he couldn't shut his eyes due to the device somehow prevented him from trying while images, the knowledge of various weapons used by the Yautja race against their prey, and the ability to understand the ancient alien writings language. This is going to be one wild life you've created for yourself, Kit, said Kyuubi, though it was more to himself than Naruto, while the blonde was in pain from the information being forced into his skull. Naruto would have agreed with the fox if he wasn't in so much pain. Konoha 3 years later. Tsunade sighed as she looked over reports she had gotten from various places talking about a demon of sorts terrorizing the elemental countries. It killed anyone apparently within its line of sight, which was strange because no one could even make out the actual appearance of this so-called demon, and all people had to go on were the remains of the victims left behind. Or rather, what was left of the victims? Those that were killed were hung up in trees, and nearly all of them were quite literally skinned with their internal organs on the ground above them. Some of the others were not skinned, but were missing their skulls, and in it 2 particular cases. The skull along with the spinal cord was missing too. At first, many suspected it was the work of a shinobi village using terror tactics to show their strength, but no village would take credit for it, despite the 2 councils wanting Tsunade to say as such, and the killings continued without stopping. Missing nin were the first to be slain, as their blood was tested in the database of the shinobi villages were used to identify their remains, and it wasn't easy either. Iwa had lost well over 50 shinobi ranging from Chunin to Anbu. Kumo lost nearly that same number, give or take a few shinobi, and the Leaf unfortunately suffered twice as much as theirs combined. Strangely enough, Suna lost the least during the last 3 years, and many suspected that the case cage was behind it. However, the case cage had lost a close confidant in Baki, who was his sensei during the Chunin exams 3 years ago, and was one of the few victims that had lost their skull with spinal column. It had saddened Gaara greatly, as his former sensei had been supporting him in being the man he should be for Suna, and the case cage had put his siblings in charge of who it was that killed their former sensei. Jiraiya had been using his spy network to find this demon, but it proved fruitless in its entirety, as some of his spies within the network were killed too, and it was clear that this thing didn't want to be found. Even Akatsuki was wary of this foe, as they had tried to find it, and possibly recruit the figure into their organization to fill in Orochimaru's vacant spot after leaving. Even now, the bingo book stated this enigmatic enemy of the elemental countries as an S-class criminal, and to flee on sight order while fighting back if only to escape being allowed. It was the 1 stage higher than the Yondaime received at the end of the last shinobi war ended, and the various descriptions one would have in seeing this creature was to look for the eyes that seemed to flash red if only for a moment. That was of course if the only survivor, just recently acquired by the Leaf, was speaking clearly, though from the way the man, a shinobi from Iwa of all places, acted was indeed the truth. The man had come to their doorstep looking like he had gone through a meat grinder, as he was bleeding heavily, was missing an arm, and screaming out for someone to save him. When the guards at the gate took the, now former, Iwa shinobi directly to the hospital, the man known in several circles as Iwa's Boulder Destroyer was seen by Tsunade for immediate medical treatment, and soon after being stabilized told the woman everything about what it was that did this to his body. Flashback 3 days ago. Please don't send me out there again. Please, for Kami's sake, don't send me back there, said Iwa's once great Boulder Destroyer, as he was in restraints out of fear he would hurt himself, and was being properly sedated to prevent any kind of attempt. We won't. Just tell us who did this to you, said Tsunade, as she didn't even think Ibiki, or Anko even would be necessary to get the truth out the man, since he seemed to be in fear of something that would strike him down on a simple lie. It was a demon. It was a demon. Who makes trophies of shinobi, said the former Iwa shinobi, as he was crying now, and seemed to be looking at the window every few minutes in fear, like the very thing that had done this would come through it to get the rest of his body. Not again. Well, at least we can get some kind of description of this guy, and work from that, thought Tsunade, as she saw the man look out the window again, and then at her with sweat dripping down his face in waves. Please, please don't send me out there. Those eyes. Those red eyes flashed or aimed at me, and he wants to take my soul. Please, said the man, as he looked out the window again, and he must have saw something before squirming madly to get free from his bed restraints. Easy, easy. No one will get to you while you are here. I will have some of my very best Anbu stationed outside of your door so no one will get to you without them knowing, said Tsunade, as she increased the man's sedative drip, and waited for the former Iwa shinobi to fall asleep before leaving the room. You too, be on your guard. He's the only one right now to survive an attack by this so-called demon, and I need to have Inoichi run through his head for answers, said Tsunade, as she saw her two Anbu guarding the room nodding their heads, and knew this was not an assignment you can afford to be marked down on your record as a failure. End flashback. Hopefully, we can nail this bastard to the wall, and I can possibly use it to influence the fire daimyo to bring Naruto back to the leaf, said Tsunade to herself, as she wished the blonde Gaki was here now, and calling her granny. After word got out of Naruto's banishment, every person in every country the blonde had ever met was sending letters upon letters to her, and the fire daimyo demanding a full explanation on why their hero was banished. The Hokage of course put the blame on the two councils and to a lesser extent the fire daimyo, though mentioned that the feudal lord did agree to it without either party letting her know until it had been signed. This caused the fire daimyo to get an increase in his mailbox with angry letters speaking of cutting off trade relations and even war if they weren't given a solid legitimate reason for the blonde's banishment. So the fire daimyo did and sent the list the councils gave him about the reasons the boy was banished and hope it would satisfy all angry parties. Unfortunately, all it did was do the opposite, and got him more mail indicating such allegations were wrong. So, an inquiry was made by the fire daimyo into these allegations to find out the real reason Naruto was banished, which the two councils tried to cover up, and ordering the reason could not be spoke under a law made by the Sandaime, that they clearly violated in secret, under penalty of death. Tsunade however, had stated that the reason could be told by Naruto, or the current Hokage of the Leaf. Again, the two councils tried to stop her, but the fire daimyo wanted to hear an explanation now, or the risk of war with another country was a very high possibility. So Tsunade told the fire daimyo about the Kyuubi's attack on the Leaf. Told him about Naruto being the fox's vessel thanks to the Yondaime with the man's dying wish to see the boy as a hero being denied. In short, Tsunade told him everything, and the look on the man's face was not that of a happy man. When the fire daimyo asked why this wish was never honored, none of the councils, the clan heads, and even the Hokage herself could answer him directly in the eyes. Tsunade could clearly see the man was less than an inch away from summoning all his samurai to Konoha to begin the liquidation of the village, and remove it from the map. It took all of Tsunade's patience and negotiation skills her late sensei had drilled into her skull as a child to persuade the fire daimyo to not destroy the village to appease those that were Naruto's allies outside for Fire Country. However, Fire Daimyo had decided to not remove the banishment on Naruto, but only because he felt that it would give the boy a chance to grow without the Leaf Village suffocating him, and improve his skills, and would remove it at a later time with a full pardon on all the past crimes the councils claimed he had done. As for the people of Konoha, the Fire Daimyo ordered that every single one who had hurt Naruto was to be punished in front of everyone, and they were whipped ruthlessly for their actions. None were spared despite the pleas the people had given out during the whippings, which went on for well over a week, and had their family assets taken away to give to Naruto upon his return, if he wanted to return to the Leaf. Their children, like their parents, were poor, feeding out of garbage cans, and doing just about anything they could to survive. As for the Uchiha, the councils had tried to get the Fire Daimyo to have Jiraiya unseal the boy's bloodline, but the man would not hear of it, and ordered Sasuke be locked away in a cell within the village until a set time by the feudal lords himself. Many people in the Leaf were upset by this, but could do nothing less they invoked the wrath of an angry daimyo, and an army of his samurai. Hokage-sama, come quick, the man from Iwa is missing and his Anbu guards are dead. It's believed to be the demon the man was talking about earlier, said a Chunin as he came running in, and report what was seen by two nurses walking down the hall. What? Scrambled the Anbu. Lock down the village right now, said Tsunade, as she was not about to have this guy infiltrate her village, and then leave right from under her nose. Konoha Hospital moments ago. The former Iwa shinobi once known as the Boulder Destroyer opened his eyes to find himself in a hospital before looking around to see the condition he was in and reflecting on what had happened during his time out in the field. It had been a simple routine B-ranked mission, which was to investigate the disappearance of another squad consisting of 2 Chunin, and 3 Junin-level shinobi. His squad had found nothing at first, but then a blood trail had been found, and signs of a battle with the victor of it being unknown. When his team branched out, it was then they saw what happened to the other squad, and would haunt him to the end of his days. The entire team had been skinned, internal organs on the ground just above the hanging corpses, and a look of horror on the bloody bodies that were once proud Iwa shinobi. And then my team got hit next. It was like the dead team's bodies was the bait and we fell for the trap it set for us, thought the former Iwa shinobi, as he saw a good friend of his get skewered right through the gut by a pair of blades that went out that same friend's back. Turning his head towards the open window, the boulder destroyer saw the beautiful day shining in him, and he smiled despite everything he had been through. However, the smile left him when the window's image seemed to become diluted, and for a moment the former Iwa shinobi thought he was still too tired from the sedatives to see clearly. Wait a minute, the window was closed before he was sedated. So, who opened the window? Then he heard a small growling sound and a flash of those same red eyes appeared for a second before those same pair of blades appeared. The demon who makes trophies of shinobi, said a voice in a distorted version of the man's own from when he spoke to Tsunade. Mercy. Please show mercy, said the man, as the monitoring systems was going crazy, and felt like he was about to have a heart attack. Before the figure could respond, the Anbu outside the room were hearing the sounds of the monitoring systems, and rushed into the room to see being that had scared the Iwa shinobi along with most of the elemental countries. Instantly, the Anbu drew weapons, but were struck down instantly when thunderous sound was heard, and two blasts from both shoulders with strange weapons shot off chakra at their heads. The creature turned its attention to the crippled man moving closer for the kill. By the time the nurses arrived to see the dead Anbu, the body of the boulder destroyer was gone, and only a small blood trail leading to the window indicated the means of the demon's escape. Just outside the leaf present time. Do you see anything, Neji? Said Hinata into her radio piece, as she was looking around with her Byakugan, and saw nothing. Not in this area, Hinata-sama. Do be careful. If this thing is what Hokage-sama believes it to be, you put yourself in danger, and I could not forgive myself if you died, said Neji, as he had been doing everything he could to be the loving cousin Hinata wanted him to be, and helped her during the last 3 years to get stronger. Still, Neji could see at times that Hinata was sad at times, and missed Naruto that there were occasions where the Hyuga branch member thought he heard crying from her room at night. The boy still remembered Hinata coming to see him in the hospital while he was recovering from the retrieval mission, as her face was flowing with tears, and kept on saying, "It's not fair. They kicked him out. They kicked him out of the leaf," repeatedly until Neji had to ask Hinata what she was talking about. So Hinata told Neji about seeing Tsunade for answers after overhearing Naruto telling Kakashi about his banishment from the leaf and how the female fire shadow couldn't stop it from happening. Needless to say, if Neji wasn't injured like he was at the time, the Hyuga prodigy would have gone on a rampage, and raised hell regardless if he was taken down by the caged bird seal. "I'll be careful, Neji. I had to be if I've to see Naruto-kun again," said Hinata, as she had heard from the Hokage about Naruto's banishment being lifted soon once this business was over, since any able leaf shinobi could be recalled into service if it was believed that shinobi's skills could prove vital to the leaf. Granted, it was all a smokescreen to get Naruto back, but any reason to have the blonde back in the leaf was good enough for Hinata, excluding imprisonment or his execution of course, and even more so to have him see just how much she had improved. Hinata's thoughts on the matter ended when she saw movement to her right and went to investigate what her eyes detected. "Neji, I think I see something. Just head to east from your current position to meet up," said Hinata, as she leapt to another tree, and then the next before she found her prey was nowhere to be found. "I'm on my way, Hinata-sama. I'll be there in 5 minutes," said Neji, as he was making his way to Hinata's location, and hoped he wasn't too late to assist her. As she waited, Hinata looked around with her Byakugan, and wondered if this demon was immune to the powers of her clan's bloodline. Hinata would have thought more on the subject, but a volley of kunai from the left came at her, and the Hyuga heiress took out a kunai before deflecting them all. "So the stories of your clan's bloodline are true. You saw my attack with your eyes and were able to deflect them with your kunai. Kumo will pay me handsomely for you and maybe a bonus considering how many shinobi they've lost in the past 3 years, said a figure appearing from the shadows to reveal none other than Mizuki in shinobi clothing. You're a traitor to the leaf and locked away by Naruto-kun. How did you escape? Said Hinata, as she got into her gentle fist stance, and saw the wicked grin on the man's face. You can thank my old master Orochimaru for that. Due to the invasion on the leaf years ago, he thinned out Konoha's forces, and then this demon running around has made the ranks thinner than ever before. The guards tend to miss things and as a result allowed me to break out while letting some inmates around me get free too in order to cover my plan of escaping, said Mizuki, as he saw the girl narrow her eyes at him, and saw him take out a sword he had acquired from his old home. I won't let you win, said Hinata, as she steadied herself, and saw the man snarl at her with contempt in his eyes. We'll see if you can stop me. I hardly doubt it from what I remember of yours days at the academy with the Kyuubi brat. Did the Hokage tell you? Tell you the damn demon of a fox was sealed inside of that blonde abomination after his banishment? I didn't think so, said Mizuki, as he saw Hinata's shocked expression, and moved in for the kill using the distraction. Hinata for her part, recovered rather quickly in using her kunai to block the sword Mizuki had, and combined it with the grace of her version of gentle fist. She kept him back for a time, but the sword was much sharper than her kunai, which broke soon at the beginning of their battle, and barely avoided losing one of her arms in the process. Mizuki saw this and landed a kick to Hinata's stomach that sent the girl from the trees to the ground with a large thud that nearly sent her into unconsciousness. No, I can't fail here. If I do, everything I have done up until now will be pointless, and I can't give up now, thought Hinata, as she tried to get up, but Mizuki came down, and kicked her in the ribs right into a tree. I'm sure the Raikage wants you pure, but considering how desperate they are, I doubt they would mind if I gave them you, and a child with the father being none other than me, said Mizuki, as he saw the barely conscious girl try to fight, but her body just didn't have the strength from the fall followed by kick into the tree trunk behind her. Naruto-kun, I wish you were here. No matter what happens now my heart will always be yours, thought Hinata, as she would not be afraid, and looked defiantly into Mizuki's eyes while he approached her. Any last words you wish say while you still have your virginity my soon-to-be Hyuga bitch? Said Mizuki, as he had kept stalking her like a predator would its prey, and looked at her with hungry eyes. I hope you die a painful and burn forever in the 9th level of hell, said Hinata, as she saw him smirk at her, and began to undo his clothing. Sorry bitch, but the only one here who's going to be in pain is Yo-Ah, said Mizuki, as he was struck from behind, and had a bladed staff of some kind coming out of his stomach. Die, said a deep voice from behind Mizuki, as an invisible hand grabbed the man by the neck, lifted him up over its head, and ripped the traitorous leaf shinobi in half that sprayed blood everywhere. For her part, Hinata was terrified of the sight of seeing someone die in such a way, even if it was Mizuki, and for the most part was glad he was dead. Or rather dying since the man was only ripped in half at the waist and still had his upper part still intact for the moment. You fucking monster, don't you know who I am? I am a former subordinate of the great Orochimaru-sama. Do you know what that man is capable of? He will destroy you once he learns of this and make you beg for death, said Mizuki, as he had blood coming out of his mouth, and looking up at this new foe now revealed to him along with Hinata. The figure's response was driving the sharp tip of the blade from his staff into Mizuki's skull before twisting the blade and then pulling it out again with the staff retracting to a more smaller traveling form. Turning, the masked figure walked towards Hinata slowly like Mizuki did, but without the intentions that the now dead man had in mind, and had stopped a single step from her downed form. Hey, are you going to kill me? Said Hinata, as she made sure to remember every aspect of this person before her, and saw him tilt his head in thought. He was taller than her by far, which she estimated put him over 6 feet 5 going on 6 feet 6 in terms of actual height, and his body was thick looking with muscle. His legs were wrapped in fishnet along with his body, as the other part of him was covered in metallic armor that Hinata had never seen before, and on his right arm was some kind of blade at the wrist. His face was a mystery to her, as it was masked with strange eyeholes that you could not see through from the outside, but it was clear this person could from the other end, and saw that the sides of the mask had what almost looked like whisker marks on his mask along with a single marking on the forehead of it. Before the figure could answer, she saw movement behind him, and Neji was about to strike using his version of gentle fist when the intended target that was this supposed demon leapt backward behind the Hyuga prodigy at the last minute. The masked being leapt into the trees using acrobatics that seemed almost inhuman for one of his size, as he looked at them to see Neji had quickly turned around, carefully maneuvering his body to be Hinata's shield, and readied himself to give his life if need be for her. You've grown. Both of you, said the figure before disappearing right in front of the two Hyuga using the cloaking device on its wrist and took off having retrieved what he wanted plus an expected bonus. Hinata-sama, are you all right? said Neji, as he turned to face her after making sure the area was secured, and sensed other members of the outside team coming their way. Yes, Neji. I am, and believe it or not, he saved me from him, said Hinata, as she pointed to the corpse of Mizuki, and then to Neji's shocked face. Did anything else happen before then? Said Neji, as he saw Hinata was going to need medical assistance soon, and gently help her up. No, Mizuki attacked me, we fought and lost. He was about to do something very bad, but then the other one came, and killed Mizuki in a vicious manner, said Hinata, as that was mostly true with the exception of Mizuki tell her about Kyuubi being sealed within Naruto, but her cousin didn't need to know that, and it wasn't her right to tell him nor anyone else for that matter. Neji nodded his head in understanding, as they began walking back to the village with the other members of the team regrouping with them along the way, and all the while they were thinking the same thing. Just who the hell was this demon running around the elemental countries? Tsunade was thankful to see Hinata was back in Konoha safely, as she had heard about how the infamous demon who makes trophies out of shinobi had been in the young girl's presence for well over a minute, and felt it was strange to hear how he, from what Hinata described of the Enigma's figure, saved Hinata from Mizuki. The traitor's death was brutal, but a death fit for someone of Mizuki's stature considering his past actions against the Leaf, and Naruto of all people. Thank you for giving this report to me right away, Neji. You too, Hinata. Because of you two, we now have an accurate description of this person, and will make it very difficult for him to hide, said Tsunade, as she would have the description be written down in the bingo book with an artistic picture to help match the description. It was our pleasure, Hokage-sama, but there is still something bothering me, and I wish to share it with you, said Hinata, as she saw Tsunade raise an eyebrow at her, and then looked at Neji to see he wanted to hear this too. What exactly is bothering you, Hinata-sama? Said Neji, as he knew that whatever it was that bothered his cousin, it was possibly connected to this mission, and this demon they had met. To be honest, Neji-ni-san, I'm not really sure, but when the demon killed Mizuki, he retreated after you appeared, and before leaving mentioned how we had both grown. It was almost like he knew us from another lifetime, said Hinata, as she saw Tsunade raise an eyebrow at this, and saw Neji deep in thought about that moment as well. I do not know of such a person in all our years growing up, Hinata-sama, said Neji, as he saw Hinata nodding her head in agreement, and Tsunade seemed stumped by this too. Still, it is a possible clue to this guy's identity, and look into that on your own time since you two look like you could rest for a bit. Even if we didn't capture this guy, I'm glad that you both came back unharmed, and possibly beat this guy in the long run, said Tsunade, as she saw them nod, and left after she dismissed them. Even if we do get this guy in the long run, from what they told us, a lot more people are going to die before that happens, and each death is going to get worse, said Jiraiya, as he appeared on a window, and saw Tsunade glaring at him now. Which is why I sent you out to find Naruto while training and protecting from such a threat, said Tsunade, as she had nearly thrown her entire office quite literally out the window when Jiraiya told her that he couldn't find the blonde Gaki, and aimed her wrath at him. I know, Tsunade-hime. I've tried finding Naruto. I did everything I can think of, but I am unable to find him, and do what I should have done when he was growing up in the Leaf to make sure he got the protection he deserved, said Jiraiya, as he saw Tsunade flinch at that since they both ignored their godparent duties, and were in reality cowards for it. Whatever the dumb Gaki is doing, I only hope that Naruto is getting stronger, and just staying the hell away from this guy, said Tsunade, as she had collapsed back into her chair, and looked out the window behind her to see the Hokage monument. The life this village had when Naruto was in it had long since left, and it seemed to be so painfully hollow without him around. You and me both, Tsunade. You and me both, said Jiraiya, as he took off the same way he entered, and decided to find something to do before heading out to find Naruto again. Ichiraku ramen stand 2 days later. I miss Naruto, said Choji, as he ate his ramen slowly, and had been ever since Naruto had left, since there was no one around to compete with in terms of eating outside of his own clan. You and me both, Choji. I never thought I'd say this, but Naruto not being here is more troublesome than with him not, and I actually wish to see a prank that has his signature written all over it, said Shikamaru, as he had joined his friend in eating here, and felt that Naruto not being here was like taking all clouds out of the sky. Hey guys, did you hear? Hinata and Neji encountered the demon guy, said Ino, as she came into the ramen stand, and saw her teammates now look at her with surprise. They did? Are they all right? Said Shikamaru, as he knew the reputation this guy had, and feared for his friends' lives. Yeah, they are. Thank Kami on that one, right? From what I'm told, Hinata had a run-in with Mizuki, who escaped from prison, and the demon guy interfered by killing Mizuki before he could do anything to Hinata, said Ino, as she had been telling anyone who would listen, and saw her friends breathing a sigh of relief since Hinata being hurt, if not worse, was not something they could handle right now. While I'm glad Hinata-san is safe, it does beg the question of why this guy let her go, and Neji too for that matter, said Shikamaru, as he felt something was off about that, and couldn't place his finger on it. Maybe he doesn't kill women. Who knows, said Ino, as she sat down, and ordered something for herself since she needed the energy for telling everyone what she knew. Doesn't kill women? That's it. Ino, you're a genius despite your dumb blonde ways, said Shikamaru, as he ran off to check something out, and then tell the Hokage if his finds were in fact accurate. Thanks Shika. Hey wait, come back here Shikamaru and I'll show you a dumb blonde, said Ino, as she was fuming at the insult, and then realized she just insulted herself for saying that last part. Hokage Tower 3 days later. You're sure your findings are accurate on this data? Said Tsunade, as Shikamaru along with Shino were now before her going over what had been discovered, and saw that this was indeed interesting. We went over our findings twice Hokage-sama. Apparently, this particular individual has yet to kill a single female shinobi during his hunts, if you wish to call them that, since not many women even become shinobi in shinobi villages, and less in terms of leaving to become missing nin. If we send female shinobi after this demon guy, I think there is a good chance we can capture and if not that then at least kill him, said Shino, as he saw Tsunade consider this option, and looking the data over that had been collected. I would hate to send any kind of shinobi team after this demon, much less a team of only female shinobi, but you may have a point in this regard, and I'll select some people for this mission, said Tsunade, as she knew the shinobi council would be quite upset, and so would the female variety too since they were scared of this guy for what he does to his victims. Thank you Hokage-sama. On a much more different subject, has there been any word from Uzumaki Naruto, and if he is returning anytime soon? Said Shino, as his teammate really missed the blonde, and in a way so did the Aburame. I'm sorry Shino, but I can't bring Naruto back to the Leaf just yet, and the Fire Daimyo has been swamped with his own duties as of late to even process the request to rescind the banishment order, said Tsunade, as she couldn't tell them that Naruto was not only banished, but had been unreachable for the last 3 years, and had no way to contact him. I understand Hokage-sama. Excuse me while I inform my teammates, said Shino, as he left to go inform Hinata of this information, and left just Shikamaru in the room with the woman. You have more to say that you couldn't in front of Shino? Said Tsunade, as she saw the Nara scratch his head, and looking nervous about asking something. A habit Shikamaru picked up from his father before saying something that soon got him whacked in the back of the head with a frying pan by the woman who ruled both of them until the younger Nara got himself a wife to whip him. Yeah, I know it sounds strange, but there seems to be a pattern in regards to this guy's appearance that you haven't seen, or quite possibly ignoring for a certain reason, said Shikamaru, as he saw Tsunade now narrowing her eyes at him. And the lazy Nara knew he was one word away from getting punched straight to his house before his mother sent him back after hearing he upset the female Hokage. And what kind of pattern is that Shikamaru? I would advise you to choose your words very carefully, said Tsunade, as she saw Shikamaru sweating heavily now, and knew she was not going to like what he had to say. Troublesome. No matter what I say, you'll probably punch me out of this room, so I will just come out and say it before you can. I think from what I've seen, this demon, maybe Naruto, said Shikamaru, as he saw Tsunade's eyes widen at his words, and then did exactly what he thought she would do. Punch him right out of the room. That stupid baka. Shikamaru has some nerve. Naruto is not this monster. Naruto would not have the heart to do what has been done to Konoha shinobi and that of other shinobi from other villages, thought Tsunade angrily, as she sat down, and tried to calm herself at the rage that those words had filled her being. Still, even with the sudden rage passing, the words had brought about an important point that Tsunade had in fact ignored, possibly on a subconscious level, and the fact that she also didn't want to even accept to be true regardless if she saw it or not. The memory of Naruto before his banishment still lived on in her mind, and Tsunade could not picture that boy filled with so much life be transformed into this thing that brutally destroys all that is in its path. A thing that skins people, taking their skulls, and in some cases the spinal columns too. However, the doubt was beginning to grow in Tsunade's head, as she realized the simple truth, and that shortly after Naruto disappeared this monster of a man appears. Closing her eyes, Tsunade prayed to Kami that it wasn't true, and called Shizune in to gather a specific number of female shinobi to her office for an assignment none of them were going to like. Rice Country Sound Village 4 days later. Orochimaru was upset, which since the loss of getting the Uchiha was nothing new, and had been in an increasingly foul mood that even Kabuto had to be extra cautious when approaching the Sannin. Orochimaru had already gone through a new body 3 years ago and needed a new one soon, with the results without a body being death. Orochimaru-sama, the body you need is ready, and awaiting your soul to enter it, said Kabuto, as he knew that would make his master partially happy, and yet angry all the same since it wasn't the Uchiha's body. Good. I need to enter my new body now or else all will be lost, said Orochimaru, as he now made his way to the room specifically for such an occasion, and extending his life another 3 years. What the snake Sannin saw when he got there, however, was not what Orochimaru was expecting, and neither was Kabuto, since the vessel chosen was in the condition it was left in. The body, or rather what was left of it, was splattered all over the room, and made Orochimaru furious at the sight of it all. This is bad. There are no other vessels in sound for Orochimaru-sama to take as his own now, thought Kabuto, who saw this, in his mind, horrible travesty, and then looked at an infuriated Orochimaru. You have some explaining to do, Kabuto, said Orochimaru, as he believed that this was Kabuto's way of betraying him in his moment of weakness, and intended on killing the boy before such betrayal could be completed. O Orochimaru-sama, I did not cause this carnage, said Kabuto, as he saw the snake Sannin was getting ready to unleash his anger on him, and feared for his life. If you didn't, as you claim, Kabuto, then who did? Said Orochimaru, as he wanted some answers, and he wanted them now. And Orochimaru did get his answers when he sensed something behind him and leapt out of the way seconds before a blast of red chakra hit Kabuto in the chest. Rolling to the side, Orochimaru saw Kabuto was now on the ground dead. His wound in the chest was steaming with the intense heat the chakra had hit him, with the wound instant becoming cauterized, and had a faraway look that told the Sannin that even Kabuto couldn't believe this had happened to him. Orochimaru of the Sannin, you will make an excellent hunt, and your head will be a nice trophy for my collection, said the unseen figure in the room, and it made the Sannin in the room narrow his eyes before looking at the door. I think not, thought Orochimaru, as he ran to the door, but was stopped when red lasers crisscrossed and blocked his path of leaving the room. Turning around, Orochimaru saw the now uncloaked figure ready for a fight with a dual spear-like weapon in hand, and heard the growling sound this person was making. In his current condition, Orochimaru knew this person was not to be taken lightly, and needed to be taught a lesson for killing his new vessel along with Kabuto, to a certain extent. So deciding to go all out, the snake Sannin revealed to the masked figure his true form being a large albino snake comprised of many much smaller snakes, after performing countless experiments on himself in the hunt for immortality. Seeing this, the masked figure extended his right hand's wrist blades, and brought out his chakram that in the common tongue, if he was asked, would have meant smart disc with his other hand. Orochimaru let out an inhuman cry, as bloodlust filled his being, and he could tell this masked enemy was feeling it too. With deadly speed and precision, the Sannin struck with the intent in biting his prey complete in two, and missed, with the wall being eaten instead. Seeing his opportunity, the masked figure unleashed his chakram at Orochimaru, and sliced the giant snake in half. However, as the disc bounced off a wall, and back to him, the Sannin reattached his lower body back together. Seeing this, the masked hunter put away his chakram, and readied his combi stick to use against the Sannin. Orochimaru extended his jaws wide, as he charged forward, faked left before moving right, and after dodging the thrown spear weapon to wrap his body around the masked hunter. Grinning in apparent victory, the Sannin squeezed harder while trying to make the masked figure's head go pop, and laughed while doing it. The Sannin's victory, however, was cut a bit short when pain went through his skull, and Orochimaru was struck in the head by the combi stick that the masked hunter had thrown away. It turns out that the combi stick was a henge, as well as his enemy being a shadow clone, and the real masked hunter had used the real combi stick to pierce the Sannin's skull. Orochimaru howled out in pain, as he struggled to somehow try to get the weapon out of his skull while the masked figure brought out his shuriken, and threw it at the Sannin repeatedly with the injuries leaving cuts before the combi stick got free. Swinging his tail at the masked figure, Orochimaru was pleased to see he had hit his target, and once more wrapped his form around his prey. Acting quickly, the masked hunter took out a canister of blue solvent in his left hand, and used his wrist blade to counter the Kusanagi sword that came out of Orochimaru's mouth. "Chew on this," said the masked hunter, as he threw the canister of blue solvent into the Sannin's mouth, and heard the glass breaking with the solvent now being swallowed down the monster snake's throat. Orochimaru cried out in pain, as the solvent began destroying his body, and left only a simple blood stain on the ground when it ran its course through his system. Still, it was against the masked hunter's beliefs to leave without some kind of trophy for such a hard-fought hunt, and set out to go through Orochimaru's lair to find an item that could become a trophy. Not before aiming his plasma canister at Kabuto's head and blew it off to make sure the man was really dead. Konoha Hokage Tower 2 weeks later. Do you understand the mission I am giving you? If you want to back out of this mission, now is the time, and I won't blame you for doing so, said Tsunade, as she saw the group of women before her trained in the shinobi arts, and each one different than the last. Before her was Mitarashi Anko, Azuki Yugo, Yuhi Kurenai, Inazuka Hana, and Hyuga Hinata, all being brought together for the single purpose of hunting down a common foe. Granted, Hinata was not one of the shinobi Tsunade wanted to use, but the Hyuga girl was the only one who could possibly stall the demon shinobi long enough for him to be taken down and unmasked before being interrogated for information. We understand the mission, Hokage-sama. We find, capture, and/or kill this guy before we find out who he is, said Anko, as she was interested in this guy, and wondered if he didn't kill women because he was being chivalrous or because he thought women were weak. Correct. However, I don't need to remind you to be on your guard, since everyone this monster had faced have all met gruesome deaths, and one false move could be your end, said Tsunade, as she saw them nod, and all of them were prepared to go forward with this mission. When the group of young women left the Hokage's office, Shino was waiting for Hinata, and so was Kiba, since he didn't like two people he cared about going on a suicide mission that will get them skinned alive if not worse. Kiba-kun, Shino-kun, what are you doing here? Said Hinata, as she greeted her Team 8 teammates, and saw they were worried about her. We came to hope you would reconsider this mission. Many within the village would fall into depression were anything to happen to you, and if you were to die, then Naruto will never know that you, said Shino, as he stayed silent when Hinata blushed a little at that part, but at the same time stayed strong in not backing out of this mission, and had a look of determination on her face. I appreciated this from the both of you, but I must do this mission, and strangely enough I feel like I have to do it to find Naruto-kun. As if there is a part of myself deep in my very soul telling me that by going on this mission I will see him again and tell him how I feel, said Hinata, as she wanted to talk to the blonde for so long, and confessed to him the feelings deep inside her heart that ached to be let out. While such a thing is highly improbable given that Naruto-san's unknown location at the present moment, there have been stranger things happening lately, and I do wish for such an event to happen. Please come back safe, Hinata-san, said Shino, as he bowed his head and left without another word. Yeah, what he said, Hinata-chan. And if you see Naruto Baka, tell him I want a rematch, and I won't let a simple fart beat me, said Kiba, as he hugged Hinata, and left to speak with his sister about reconsider doing this mission. Somewhere in a forest of fire country 1 week later, the demon of shinobi, as he was so called in the shinobi world, leapt from tree to tree in an acrobatic fashion, and stopped on a tree when he heard a sound not far from him. Looking down below, the hunter looked down to see the forms of two individuals walking side by side, and talking friendly banter. One was clearly taller than the other, as he wielded a sword currently strapped on his back, and the other more shorter one talked only at certain points in the conversation. They were Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame of the Akatsuki organization. The masked hunter grinned at this generous hunt before him, as it had been some time since he had a good hunt, and what better way to have a good one than with these two. They were strong, skilled, and would last much longer than the weaklings he normally found himself hunting from time to time. Hey Itachi, you sense him, don't you? said Kisame in a whisper to his partner while they looked straight ahead. Yes, he's above us. Be cautious, Kisame. There is a reason why this person is an S-class criminal, and is feared by all the shinobi villages in the elemental countries, said Itachi in his usual calm voice, but there was a faint edge in it, and it told Kisame to be prepared to draw his sword in an instant. Yeah, I know, Itachi. What he does to his victims creeps me out, and that's saying really something when you consider who I am, said Kisame, as he felt that such a way to die was no way for a shinobi to meet his end, and it made a chill run down his spine. Before any more could be said, the figure in question had landed about 15 feet in front of them with a loud thud, as he deactivated his cloaking device, and stared at the two S-class missing nins with his masked eyes flashing red for a second. For Kisame, he could see why Pain wanted this scary guy to join the Akatsuki organization, as he was no doubt very strong in a physical sense, and not afraid to kill in a brutal fashion. As for Itachi, he was cautious of this figure because the mask would prevent him from using the standard powers of his Sharingan, and there was no record of the man's skills, making this enigma just that. Kisame readied his sword for another attack, as he looked around for his now invisible prey, and focused on using his other senses to find this guy. Hearing a thump sound behind him, Kisame quickly swung hard on his right side with his sword, hitting tree bark, as he missed whatever it was that had been standing there, and it was then he realized his mistake after it was too late. Kisame had been baited with his prey leaping from the spot now in front of him, over the Akatsuki member's head, and landed behind the man before finishing the swing. Now the figure was facing Kisame's exposed back, wrist blades extended to their maximum limit, and stabbed the man from behind. Only for Kisame to turn into water. Gotcha, said Kisame, as he struck from above, and sliced the man in half. Before going, poof, which indicated the figure Kisame had slain was a shadow clone, and that shocked both members of Akatsuki. Before Kisame could react to this shocking information, the figure struck by launching a bolt of crimson chakra from his spot above the shark man that hit him directly in the chest, and right through the heart, with the body not turning into water. This meant that the Akatsuki member was indeed the real deal and was now dead, with his killer turning towards the second half of this pairing. I must flee and report to Pain-sama this turn of events, thought Itachi as he took off with Kisame's killer in pursuit of him, and intending to add his life to follow Kisame's. Itachi had seen the chakra bolt that had hit Kisame, which felt like Kyuubi's chakra of all things, and confirmed it when using his Sharingan eyes on the attack. Only one person had Kyuubi's chakra running through his body, and that person was thought to have fallen off the face of the planet several years ago. His train of thought on the matter, however, stopped instantly when he dodged another pair of spinning multi-bladed discs, and then stopped when the strange spear weapon hit a tree in front of him. Itachi then leapt back before drawing his own sword out in his right hand and a kunai in his left, with his Sharingan now active. Gotcha, said a warped version of Kisame's voice that made Itachi look up before his eyes widened and rolled to his right to avoid the large body mass that was his enemy. Amaterasu, said Itachi, as he used one of his Sharingan's high-level powers that would finish his foe for good, and consumed the hunter in the dark fire. Letting out a sigh of relief, Itachi winced at the blood leaking from his eyes, as they now returned to their normal dark orbs, and struggled to stay on his feet. Hey Itachi, said a slightly lesser warped voice that resembled Kisame that made the Uchiha clan killer turn around and was greet a pair of wrist blades entering his stomach before lifting him up while he cried out in pain. This cannot be happening, thought Itachi, as he felt the blades leave his body, and then instant death when the masked hunter brought out a sword to slice his head clean off. 2 hunts, 2 pairs worth of trophies, said the masked hunter, as he walked with his prize, and Itachi's ringed hand back to Kisame's corpse to collect on both body parts too. Something to signify just who had been killed at his hands, like he did with Orochimaru's original ring-covered hand. Elsewhere 4 days later, were you able to track him from the spot Hinata met him, said Anko, as she saw Hana using her Inuzuka senses to track the scent of the masked hunter, and had followed him so far to this spot. Yeah, it's strange, but his scent is all over the place, and yet, it's fresh. No more than a few minutes, if not more, said Hana, as they had been tracking this guy for some time, and finally caught his scent after a supposed sighting. Keep your guard up. If he is around here somewhere, then that means he knows that we are here, and hunting him, said Yugo, as she readied herself for battle, and Hinata was once more trying to locate him with her Byakugan. I won't die on this or any other mission. Not until I tell Naruto-kun how I feel, thought Hinata, as she looked around for anything that would give away this foe's position, and help her team further. Cautiously, the group of female shinobi moved forward, and trying to follow whatever traces of the masked hunter. They knew he was near and they knew that he was watching them, with the wrong move possibly being their last. Brave of them, but foolish, said the dark voice, as masked hunter's eyes flashed red in his cloaked form, and watched them from the trees above until the moment was right to strike. He's near. I sense bloodlust all around us, said Anko, as she felt everyone stiffen and get ready for a fight while forming a defensive circle formation. Now was the moment for the masked hunter to strike. Leaping from his position in the tree, he acrobatically landed in the middle of the circle formation, and attacked using taijutsu that seemed inhuman to perform given the size of the man. Anko tried using her hidden shadow snake jutsu on the man, but he tore them to pieces with his sword, and hit the woman with a spin kick to the face that sent her flying into a nearby tree. Hana leapt on top of his back, tried to bite into the side of his neck while using her claws to dig into his skin, but was thrown off with one hand by his incredible strength, and was unaffected by Kurenai's own attempts at casting a genjutsu on him. Which was why the shocked young woman was kneed in the breadbasket before being elbowed in the back to further increase her body's impact with the ground. Azuki Yugo had the best of luck given her skills with a sword, as she attacked his with Hayate's old sword, and began clashing with the masked hunter's own sword. Sparks flew from their swords connecting with Yugo, as she knew full well not to match her foe in terms of strength, for it was far greater than her own, and hoped her skills with a sword would be what she needed to take him down. She was wrong when the masked hunter feinted left, sweep-kicked the Anbu woman off her feet, and took the sword right out of Yugo's hands to examine it, much to her horror. This sword, it once belonged to Gecko Hayate, said the masked figure, as he studied the sword with an appraising eye, and saw Yugo glaring at him. So, said Yugo, as she was inwardly surprised by this, and wondered how this man knew about her lover. I just find it strange you would try to kill me when in actuality, I killed your lover's murderer, said the masked hunter, as he threw the blade into a tree where it pierced the trunk all the way to the hilt, and saw Yugo's shocked face. And you expect me to show some kind of gratitude for that? Said Yugo, as she saw Hinata moving in behind the figure, and seemed to be waiting for something to happen. Perhaps, though for me, it was returning the favor to someone who actually knows the difference between a kunai and a scroll that holds it. He defended me when I was little and chose to honor a wish that no one else had the mind to do so themselves out of their own arrogance, said the masked hunter in a cryptic tone, but turned his head when he heard Hinata's gasp of understanding behind him, and leapt behind the girl before knocking her out while catching the Hyuga girl in his arms. Hinata, said Kurenai, as she got up from the ground, and tried to rush the hunter with a kunai in hand in order to make him drop the girl to defend himself. However, the masked hunter leapt back into the thickness of the trees, and the women on ground below could practically sense the smile on his face. It's been a long time since I smelled the scent lavender. I had nearly forgotten, said the masked hunter, as let Hinata's scent fill his senses, and then saw the others below now jumping up to intercept him. Give her back this instant, said Kurenai, as she was not going to lose her student to this monster, and was going to make him pay for the attempt. I will. In time, of course. She and I have much to catch up on, said the masked figure as he leapt away, and shot a chakra bolt from his shoulder plasma canister at the tree's base, causing it to fall in the group's general direction to give him time to escape. Within moments, the two were gone, and the group of female shinobi felt fear grip their hearts like never before. The most pure of them was just taken to Kami knows where by a demonic hunter that took skulls as trophies, if Inoichi's beliefs were true, about the missing heads. The group of female shinobi of the leaf rushed after the masked hunter using his scent mixed with Hinata's own to follow the bizarre trail the man was taking to get away. As they reached the pre-verbal fork in the road with many paths ahead of them, Hana cursed at the problem before her, as Hinata's scent went in multiple different directions, which confused her since it should be possible, and each woman broke off towards each path Hinata pointed to. When Kurenai went down her path, she prayed to Kami that Hinata was all right, and was thinking up various ways to torture this monster before putting him out of his soon-to-be misery. There was even a ray of hope in her mind, as the masked hunter had more than enough time to kill them all, but chose not to, and that meant there may be some truth to the idea that this monster doesn't kill women. If that is true, he'll soon change his mind when I get through with him, and wished he had tried to kill me, thought Kurenai, as she saw Hinata being carried away by the uncloaked form of the masked hunter. The said masked figure, however, stopped on a tree branch before turning around to face Kurenai, as he put the girl down, and then looked the Hyuga's former sensei right in her crimson eyes. Kurenai for the most part kept her guard up, and kunai drawn in both hands to give him twice the pain for his troubles. Dangerous behavior you are showing, Yuhi Kurenai. I thought Leaf Shinobi attacked in pairs? Said the masked shinobi in a mocking voice, as he saw Kurenai glare at him even harder, and was trying to figure out a way around him to get to Hinata. Give Hinata back, monster, or I'll show you what the pair of kunai in my hands can do when I'm angry, said Kurenai, as she waited for an opening to make her move, and grab Hinata before running off with the unconscious girl. Really? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have Hinata, and neither do the other versions of myself your comrades are chasing, said the masked hunter, as the Hinata turned into a shadow clone of him, and was holding Hinata's thick jacket. What? Said Kurenai, as she saw the shadow clone go poof and dispel before her eyes. You should be commended for trying to save Hinata from me, Yuhi Kurenai, but it was all for naught, and you along with the others will have to report to your Hokage that you've lost someone you hold dear to your heart, said the masked hunter, as he also went poof to indicate that he was a shadow clone, and saw the shocked look on the woman's face before the memory went to the original. All Kurenai could do was fall to her knees and cry out in horror at losing her favorite student to the likes of her kidnapper. Unknown location, time later unknown. Hinata groaned in minor agony, as she was struggling to awaken from the forced slumber her capture put her in, and when she opened her eyes found herself on a bed in a mildly dark room. As her senses came back to her, Hinata realized what happened before sitting up, and checking her body to see that it was still whole with the exception of one thing. She was lacking clothing. She wasn't naked by any means, as she still had her dark gray shirt, bra, and panties on, though Hinata was wondering how he came to be like this. So, the young Hyuga girl got off the surprisingly comfy bed before slowly letting her feet touch the cold floor that made her jump slightly, and walked towards the exit of the room that strangely enough had no door to it. When Hinata walked out of the room, she found herself walking along a dark corridor with little lighting to guide her path, as she touched the rough walls with the strange glyph designs on them, and made her way what she felt was the heart of this place. And she was right. What Hinata saw was a large circular room covered from the knees up in a dense fog with 4 stone-like pillars covered with strange designs near the center. On a wall closest to her right was a wide variety of strange exotic weapons never before seen by possibly anyone in the elemental countries, and across the room was what made her let out an almost inaudible gasp. Across from her, Hinata saw a wall filled various skulls mounted there like trophies, as well as various other items that signified that these people that once held them were dead, and were taken instead of the skulls in the event such part of the physical body was damaged. For reasons unknown to her, Hinata walked towards the wall filled with trophies that had been collected from the victims of the masked hunter, and read some of the names listed beneath the skulls with the headband of the shinobi to prove where they were from. Some of these people she knew, as they were from the Leaf, but also those that had in one point hurt Naruto when he was a kid, and had been let go without punishment with orders to take posts outside of the village until they no longer hated the blonde. They eventually came back some time later, but never lost their hate, and everyone who knew these now dead shinobi knew it too. Hinata's musing over the trophy wall were cut short when she heard a growling noise of sorts and had a bad feeling growing in the back of her stomach before turning around to see the source of the noise. Sure enough, a few feet from Hinata was the ever-tall and imposing form of the masked hunter staring at her with his face being unreadable due to the mask he wore. He wasn't armed, as far as she could see, with the small exception of his armor, and his clawed hands that currently looked sharp enough to cut through steel. Internally, Hinata was terrified at seeing such an imposing warrior before her, as she had never seen anything like him, and even the first time seeing him paled in comparison to now. However, at the same time Hinata knew she had to find out just who she thought was behind that mask, and if it was who she thought it was. Even if she died afterwards at his hands, Hinata didn't care since it would be without regret, and know the one simple truth that mattered to her now over all others. Enjoying the small sample collection, I take it, said the masked hunter, as he saw the section of trophies she was looking at, and saw it was skulls collected from the shinobi of the leaf. Small sample, thought Hinata, as she now recalled the bingo book stating that the masked hunter in front of her had killed hundreds of people, and there were only dozen or so skulls, some with spines still attached, on the wall. "Do you know why I spared you, Hyuga Hinata?" said the masked hunter, as he saw her looking from the wall to him, and saw how scared she was right now. "No," said Hinata, though it was partly a lie, as she did have a clue, but was afraid to speak it, and be wrong like she feared she would be. "You're lying," said the masked hunter in an almost amused voice, as he saw Hinata jump a little in fright at the fact he knew she lied, red in the face, and began spilling out one apology after another in the hopes she wouldn't be his next trophy. "Father was right, I was never really good at lying, and too innocent for my own good when it comes to talking to others," thought Hinata, as she had never really lied in her life, and tried to avoid it altogether. "I always thought it was cute how you blushed, Hinata-chan," said the masked hunter, as he saw her look up at him, and eyes widening with the look of realization in them. "Naruto-kun, is that you?" said Hinata with hope in her voice and in her eyes before he began to raise his hand to his mask. "I'll let you judge for yourself, Hinata-chan, but you may not like what you see, and you may come to hate me," said the man, as he removed the various tubes connected to his mask, and wrapped both hands slowly over it before pausing to take it off when the girl in front of him grabbed his wrists. "Let me be the judge of that, Naruto-kun," said Hinata, as she knew now without a doubt in her mind it was him, and that he feared what she thought of him. So after a long pause, the two removed his mask together, and Hinata came face to face with the man that so many people feared in the elemental countries. Naruto's face had a more reptilian appearance to it now, as it was smoother, shiner like a snake's, but nowhere near the appearance of Orochimaru's pale face. As for the face itself in terms of features, the whisker marks on Naruto's face were more noticeable now, his teeth were more animistic, and his once blue eyes were now a demonic red. It was then Hinata noticed that his hair was spiky, but at the same time were not, and looked like the strange hairstyle known as dreadlocks, that were red while the spiky part was blonde. On his face were little spikes of what looked like hair, but they gave him a fierce warrior look and felt that anyone seeing Naruto's face would think twice in trying to fight him. "So, what do you think of me?" said Naruto, as he dropped the mask into the swamp of fog that covered the floor of the room, and let Hinata run her hand over his face while she eyed every inch of him. I think that you are still Naruto-kun to me despite the changes you have made to yourself," said Hinata, as she felt a shiver run down her spine when touching his face, and being so close to him now after so many years. "And you are not the same girl I knew years ago, Hinata-chan. You've changed. You've grown stronger not only as a shinobi, but into a beautiful woman, and I have kicked myself every day since I realized your affection for me. I should have focused more on you than that pink-haired fangirl Banshee, and shown you the affection worthy of a goddess," said Naruto, as he eyed her up and down with a hint of amusement in his voice while Hinata blushed a new shade of red. "Gee, goddess? Me? Why is he looking at me like that? Oh Kami, I'm half naked," thought Hinata, as she immediately realized that this entire time talking to Naruto, she was in little to no clothing, and tried to cover herself up while blushing from head to toe in red. "Don't be shy now, Hinata-chan. You have nothing to be embarrassed about," said Naruto, as he smiled down at her, and took a full step closer so their bodies were mere inches apart. What about my teammates that were with me?" said Hinata, as she tried to not focus on Naruto's body, the fact they were so close right now, and he was looking at her with eyes that seemed to be seeing through what clothing she had on. "They were unable to follow after I took you away. They tried to find me through your scent, but after removing a few articles of your clothing, and using a few of my shadow clones hanged into you with them on," said Naruto, as he let the implication of how he deceived the female Inuzuka enter Hinata's mind, and make her blush further knowing what he had done to put her in this state of being half naked. "By now, they've reported me captured, if not dead by your hands, and Tsunade-sama will call for your head," said Hinata, as she felt his hand on her face, and leaned into it in full belief he would never hurt her. "Not if you return to Konoha and tell them I wish to become a part of the village," said Naruto, as he saw Hinata look at him in shock, and then wrap her form around him before shaking her head no at the idea. "No, you can't, Naruto-kun. Officially, you are still banished, and if you return now even under a mask it could force Tsunade to order your execution." Not to mention you killed so many Leaf Shinobi that it would be political suicide to let you go without some kind of punishment involving physical pain, said Hinata, as she didn't want to imagine Naruto being put in a room filled with shinobi, who hated Naruto before, and now after what he had done knowing full well they would attempt to destroy him. Just tell the old hag to make it a condition of me coming in. As far as Tsunade knows, we are two separate people, and she will gladly make it happen if it means that I am captured within her walls, said Naruto, as he felt Hinata tighten the grip of her hug, and the scent of lavender filled his senses. She will want to know why you made such a strange request, said Hinata, as she knew Tsunade wasn't an idiot, and was going to wonder if the two were indeed not the same. Tell her that I know all about Naruto's past and that I respect him too much to not seize this opportunity to bring him back to his home. With full immunity on all charges against him and full restitution to his person for past crimes done against him by the Leaf, of course, said Naruto, as he knew Hinata could pull this off, and that through this move could gain everything he wanted from the Leaf. And more. I'm not very good at lying, said Hinata, as she heard his heart beating, and made her feel a tad sleepy. Still, I have faith in you, Hinata-chan, and I know that you can pull this off if you believe in yourself, said Naruto smoothly into her ear and felt her body heat up when he did that. When do I go back? I don't want to leave you, said Hinata, as she held onto him, and wanted to ask him so many things. I know you don't, Hinata-chan. As for when you go back? How does a few days sound to you? Said Naruto, as he growled into her ear, and Hinata lost herself in the moment with sleepy eyes. That sounds good, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, as she felt herself falling asleep again, and collapsing into his form. Well, it took over a decade to happen, but you finally got the girl of your dreams, and even I must admit you caught yourself quite the vixen, said Kyuubi, as he felt Naruto becoming irked by that, and mentally scowled at the fox. Shut up, fox. Don't make me turn your cage pink and bring out Barney again, thought Naruto, as he had done that when the fox teased him about this during the last 3 years, and had used it only once to make the Kyuubi think twice about the teasing. Okay, geez, what a bitch, said Kyuubi to himself. What was that? Thought Naruto with a look that dared Kyuubi to repeat what he said. I said, what an itch, since I have an itch on my back, said Kyuubi quickly, as he didn't want to face Barney in the pink room. Right, sure you do. I'll let it slide for now since I'm with Hinata-chan, but don't push your luck, furball, and remember, I love you. You love me. Piss me off again and I will just reintroduce you to Barney, thought Naruto, as he felt the fox shiver at that, and keep to the darkness of his cell. Naruto-kun, said Hinata, as she was clearly sleeping now, and Naruto scooped her up in his arms before taking her to a more appropriate bed than the one she was in earlier. Konoha 3 days later. I can't believe this has happened, said Tsunade, as she read the report given to her by Kurenai over and over again while trying to read over the teardrop marks the genjutsu mistress made when writing it. When the team came back, Tsunade could tell instantly by the lack of one member that something had gone wrong, and heard everything about the battle that led up to Hinata's capture. How each of the women broke off to follow Hinata's scent when they found it scattered, only to find the masked hunter had used shadow clones hanged into Hinata while holding a single piece of clothing that she once had on. What was worse, was the meaning behind the lack of clothing, and how it could put the young Hyuga heiress in a situation many young female shinobi shouldn't be in at that age. Even now, Tsunade was debating to label Hinata Mia, or Kia, since the latter was also a possibility if the masked hunter decided to end her life. Tsunade-sama, come quick, said Shizune, as she rushed into the room, and panting from running all the way from the Konoha streets to the office. Not being on the run for 3 years put her out of shape in that department. What is it, Shizune? Said Tsunade, as saw the woman's face was filled with joy and surprise. It's Hinata. She's back and she's alive, said Shizune, as she saw Tsunade's eyes widen in disbelief, and ran out of the office to see the Hyuga girl herself. Konoha streets sometime later. Hinata smiled, as she walked into Konoha with glow about her that you wouldn't expect from a girl, who went on a failed mission to track down a notorious S-ranked criminal, and getting captured in the process. Naruto had provided clothes for her to wear when she left, as he couldn't send her back the way he took since it would make many a men come after her for lust-filled purposes, and he, the former Leaf Shinobi now hunter, couldn't let that happen. Hinata, said Kurenai, as she heard about her former student's return, and hugged the girl with all her strength. Kurenai-sensei, it's all right. I'm fine. Really, said Hinata, as she saw Kurenai looking her over with careful eyes, and knew that the woman suspected something had happened to her. Are you really? Did that monster do anything to you? Rape you? Torture you? Said Kurenai, as she looked for any signs of Hinata hiding those facts by staring into the girl's eyes, and found nothing so far to indicate the Junin's worst fears. Kurenai-sensei, I said I'm fine. The masked hunter only kidnapped me so he could talk and deliver a message to the Hokage, said Hinata, as she saw Kurenai frown at that, but then again it might make some form of sense, and wondered if that was really true. All right, let's take you to the Hokage, who will, said Kurenai, who stopped when the Hokage came, and appeared before them instantly looking at Hinata with careful eyes. I'm glad you are alive, Hinata, but we need to talk privately in my office, and tell me about what it is you saw while with that monster, said Tsunade, as she saw Hinata nod her head, but had a look of seriousness on it that surprised the female fire shadow, and wondered what changed in the younger woman. Yes, we have much to talk about, Hokage-sama, and about Naruto-kun coming home, said Hinata, as she saw the Hokage, and Kurenai frown at that since this was always on the forefront of the younger girl's mind from day one of the banishment. How is that related to what you went through with the masked hunter, Hinata? Said Kurenai, as she saw her former student look at her, and wondered if the masked hunter had offered her something the Hokage couldn't regarding the blonde. It is related for the deal he wants to make with the Hokage. The masked hunter told me he is offering himself up upon entering Konoha's walls, and in exchange for Naruto-kun's banishment from Konoha being lifted. He also wants Naruto-kun to have full immunity on whatever crimes the two councils claim he's committed in the past, and restitution be paid out to Naruto for the crimes Konoha committed against him for the Kyuubi, said Hinata, as she saw Tsunade's eyes budge out of their sockets, and jaw drop with Kurenai doing the same. Why would the masked hunter do this now? The two haven't even met each other. Have they? Said Kurenai, as she felt something was off about this, and knew the Hokage did too. No, but the masked hunter knows of Naruto-kun's past here in Konoha, and the injustice the Leaf has done to him. He respects Naruto-kun for putting up with us and wishes him to return here to get what was denied by the Leaf, said Hinata, as she looked at the two women looking back at her with suspicion, and wondered if that was really the case. And he's willing to surrender himself to the Leaf in exchange for Naruto returning and getting everything that is rightfully his, said Tsunade, as she looked Hinata square in the eye, and saw the Hyuga girl nod her head yes. Yes, said Hinata, as she saw Tsunade thinking about this, and Kurenai was also looking at the Hokage for her answer to this deal too. What do you think? Is it some kind of trap? Said Kurenai in a whisper to the Hokage, as she looked back at Hinata, and then at the Hokage again. Maybe. We'll agree to the terms for now, but if there is any sign of trouble from this guy, I want him dead at the hands of our Anbu, and within the span of single second, said Tsunade, as she looked at Hinata, and saw the girl waiting for the response. How is he even going to know we agreed to the deal? Said Kurenai, as they now had no means of contacting the masked hunter, and made things very troublesome. He knows. The masked hunter is using a shadow clone to hear everything on the wall of Konoha, said Hinata, as she pointed to the spot where the two older women saw the figure look at them with flashing red eyes before he went, poof. Well, that solves that problem, but you still need to tell me what happened while you were his captive, Hinata, said Tsunade, as she looked at the girl with stern eyes, and saw the girl was not afraid to answer her questions. I understand, Hokage-sama, said Hinata, as she walked with the Hokage and Kurenai to the tower to tell them everything they needed to know about the masked hunter. Tsunade sighed, as she rubbed her temples, and tried to remove the killer headache that this masked hunter had placed on her through his action with Hinata. From what Hinata told her, Tsunade had only a few days to get the banishment lifted off of Naruto through the permission of the Fire Daimyo, or else she would miss out on the opportunity to nab an enemy of the elemental countries. Still, what bothered the slug Sanin turned Hokage was that the masked hunter had just about surrendered himself to the Leaf, and all for someone that he didn't know. Granted, Tsunade wasn't going to deny the offer was so much in her favor, as she would jump on it like a one-month-long casino gambling event, and take the deal no problem. However, there was a problem with this deal, and it was too damn one-sided in her favor that made the female Hokage's old gambling instincts kick in. This deal smelled rotten somehow and Tsunade couldn't figure out how. Did the Fire Daimyo get back to you, Tsunade-sama? Said Shizune, as she knew the man would, since he felt that a direct line to the Hokage was much more efficient when keeping an eye on his shinobi village, and find out how things are going within it. Yes, he gave the approval for the banishment being lifted and is going to be in Konoha the day the masked hunter surrenders and signs the agreement set up to make this legal, said Tsunade, as she knew he was going to bring a large group of samurai with him for good measure, and she herself was going to have Enbu stationed all around them too in the public square where this would take place. That's good news, but the question now is, how do we even contact Naruto to tell him to come home, and even then, will he want to? Said Shizune, as she knew some people still hated Naruto for the fox, and their current decreased lifestyle in the leaf. Apparently, from what Hinata told me, the masked hunter will contact Naruto himself, and has set the date for them to enter the village together. Together, as if they were old drinking buddies and dear friends, said Tsunade, as she couldn't believe it, and still wouldn't believe it until she saw them with her own 2 eyes. Won't that be a sight to see, said Shizune, as she knew that people were afraid of the masked hunter, but to see Naruto walking beside the man together would speak volumes, and maybe even rumors of a partnership between the two. Yeah, it will. The only one that seems to be happy with this is Hinata, said Tsunade, as she couldn't believe the girl's luck, and wondered how much of it rubbed off of Naruto onto the Hyuga heiress before he left 3 years ago. The others are a bit nervous. A lot happened 3 years ago, with people learning about the Kyuubi being Naruto, and then this masked hunter appears killing shinobi from all over. None of them really want the masked hunter in our village, but they do want Naruto back, and most of them want to apologize for thinking so little of him. Well, all except Sakura, that is, said Shizune, as she couldn't understand how Sakura could blame Naruto of all people for Sasuke's situation, and hate him for having the Kyuubi within his body. Maybe we can convince the masked hunter to kill the pink-haired bitch since she's still an Uchiha fangirl, said Tsunade angrily, as she heard Shizune gasp, and look at her in mock horror. Tsunade-sama, said Shizune, as she mocked a woman scolding a child, and pointing a nagging finger at her teacher. What, did I say that out loud? Oops, said Tsunade mockingly, and the 2 women laughed at the pink-haired girl's expense. Seriously, Tsunade-sama, how are we going to convince Naruto-kun to stay, and not just for Hinata's sake since she could just leave with him if she wanted to, said Shizune, as she saw Tsunade frown, and just collapse back in her chair. I don't know, Shizune, but the councils will not like it, and even with their powers being stripped the next to nothing they will demand Naruto be punished for his actions after his banishment, said Tsunade, as she knew they were on her case about this the moment they found out, and kept on making the desire to punch them right out of Konoha very tempting. Kakashi hasn't been the same either, said Shizune, as she saw the man was depressed beyond reason, and looked ready to kill himself just as father did. Serves him right. He trained the Uchiha, abandons his other 2 students with one of them being in the Chunin exams against a hate-filled Hyuga prodigy, and with the power to shred a person's internal organs. It was even sheer luck Naruto found Jiraiya to fix the seal on him and teach him how to use the fox's chakra, said Tsunade, as she had a few choice words with Jiraiya about his teaching ethics regarding the boy, and how one does not teach someone to use demonic chakra by shoving them into a ravine. Oh yeah, Jiraiya was in the hospital for some time with that lesson stuck in his head. And again later on in a far worse condition when Hinata found out. With Naruto a few days later. Naruto grinned behind his mask, as he stared at Konoha from his current position, and wondered how they would react to him being what he was now. Would they simply piss themselves? Shit themselves? Do both? Most likely both in his mind. Of course, for such an incredible if not most shocking prank to manifest itself to its fullest potential, Naruto would need to deceive almost everyone in the Leaf until the contract was signed on his end, and everything became official for what he intended to do. Shadow Clone Jutsu, said Naruto, as he made a copy of himself, which then hanged into what he would look like now growing up with black pants, combat boots, and a nice crimson shirt with black trench coat with a crimson fox on it. The old hag was right about one thing. We definitely look good in black and red, said the shadow clone version of Naruto, as he grinned in a feral manner at the original, and the 2 headed towards the entrance of Konoha. You are a fox in human skin, kid. Well, you're not fully human anymore, but that's beside the point, said Kyuubi in Naruto's head, as he laughed at what was about to happen, and the aftermath it was going to cause. Konoha Public Square. Tsunade was currently waiting for the masked hunter with Jiraiya. As the two waited for Naruto to arrive, the fire daimyo along with the most elite of samurai beside her were waiting patiently. Hidden within the shadows of the crowd waiting for the two different individuals to arrive were Leaf Anbu waiting to strike the masked demonic figure the instant he tries something. They were also under orders to prevent any and all harm from befalling Naruto without so much a hair being harmed on his spiky blonde-haired head. Failure to comply in following that particular order would result in severe consequences. "Do you think the masked hunter and Naruto will show up, Hokage-sama?" said the fire daimyo, as he awaited the arrival of the scorned hero of Konoha, that the other countries around the leaf called Naruto, and wondered if the blonde would stay in the leaf at all. "Naruto won't miss this. He'll come back to the leaf if only to have his name cleared of all charges, and if he leaves again afterwards while flipping this village off, then I won't stop him," said Tsunade, as she figured the Gaki would do that, and teach these bakas a lesson. "Well, you don't have to assume anything, as he's walking this way, and so is the masked hunter," said the fire daimyo, as he saw the two figures walking side by side, and the blonde Gaki sporting a devious smile on his face. "Minato, your kid has grown up quite a bit since I saw him, and I'm sorry I was so stupid in not staying in the village to protect him," thought Jiraiya, as he saw the blonde Gaki, and saw so much of Minato in the kid it was frightening. When the two finally made it up to the recently built platform for this grand event, the Naruto looked at the fire daimyo before bowing, and then looked at Tsunade with a smirk on his face. After the blonde asking how she was doing, calling her an old hag in the process, which resulted in a variety of insults being exchanged between the two, Tsunade eventually had to hold back punching the blonde into next week, for now, and focus on the masked hunter next to him. "Okay, here is how it goes. Naruto will sign the agreement first, as the fire daimyo and myself have already done so with both our seals on it to make it 100% legal. After that, you, my masked friend, will sign it, and then be put into the custody of my Anbu. Do you understand?" said Tsunade, as she saw the masked hunter nod his head, and saw Naruto nod while smiling at her with that same devious look on his face. "Let's do this thing, Granny," said Naruto, as he saw Tsunade scowl at him, and a look that promised of pain later on for that remark while he moved to sign the deal on paper. "The kid hasn't changed at all," thought Jiraiya, as he eyed the masked hunter cautiously, and wondered how someone came to be like that. Without another word, the masked hunter waited for the blonde to sign the paper before him with people among the large mass of the villagers, and shinobi watching the events unfold. Of course, he saw with his infrared vision that there were shinobi in the village watching this, and some armed more than others to indicate they were Anbu hidden amongst the crowd to move at a moment's notice. "Now it's your turn, sir," said the fire daimyo, as he saw the masked hunter turn to face him, and then the paper in question before walking over to it when Naruto moved out of the way. Without a single word being said, the masked hunter that was secretly Naruto took the pen from his shadow clone copy, and signed the paper simply as masked hunter, since that was what everyone called him. "Okay. All parties have signed. Naruto, if you would step away from the masked hunter, the Anbu will now take him away for interrogation, and then lock him away," said Tsunade, as she nearly moved to grab the blonde Gaki, and keep him safe by her side. "I'm afraid we can't do that, Hokage-sama, I'm afraid we can't do that, Hokage-sama," said Naruto and his shadow clone at the same time, causing the female Hokage to tense at that while the shinobi in the leaf did too at their shared statement to her. "Naruto, what are you talking about?" said Tsunade, as she looked from Naruto to the masked hunter, and then back at the shadow clone in confusion. "Sorry, Granny, but you've been deceived, and so have you, Daimyo-sama." "Well, sort of," said Naruto, as he went poof to reveal to everyone that he was indeed a shadow clone, and left just the four of them on that stage. No, it's not true," thought Tsunade, as she realized what had just happened, and it was now becoming confirmed when the masked hunter began undoing his tubes connected to his mask before removing it after putting both hands on it. Everyone stared wide-eyed at the sight before them, as they couldn't breathe. Some people fainted, some shinobi began to sweat heavily, and Tsunade looked like she was ready to collapse from the shock. The fire daimyo was frozen in place, as were his samurai army, since they were terrified of this figure that destroyed nearly all his prey, and the rookies were so surprised that Choji gave his bag of chips to Shikamaru to eat while swapping it for the cig the lazy Nara was smoking. "You all look like you've seen Ghost? Or would you prefer the term demon?" said Naruto, as he dropped his mask, and then let out a might roar that made everyone cover their ears at the sound. Naruto? It can't be you, said Tsunade, as she looked at the sight of her godson and surrogate brother in this state of demonisms that seemed to be his true form. "What? You were expecting the Yondaime?" said Naruto before letting out a demonic chuckle and looked over the contract he had signed regarding his past actions. "This cannot be," said Tsunade, as she saw the nightmarish form that Naruto had taken up while being outside of the village, and she didn't like it one bit. "What? You expected me to be something else, Granny? You should really thank old Danzo Teme for sending all those rude Anbu after me after I left. Bastard wanted to mold me into his little weapon to overthrow you so he could become Hokage. Fell off a cliff during a battle and landed in a ravine where I stumbled upon an interesting place. A place where I could unleash a side of me I never knew existed or thought was even possible to have," said Naruto, as he had one of his clawed fingers stop at sentence in the deal that made everything all the sweeter upon his return to Konoha. "Uzumaki Naruto is hereby fully pardoned of all past crimes against Konoha up to the point of signing this document on the date specified below. But look at what you've become. What you did to the shinobi of the leaf if not the other shinobi villages," said Tsunade, as she saw Naruto didn't really seem to care about that, and just grinned at her with that demonic feral smile. "Like I care what happens to the fools within the leaf. You know as well as I do. All of those I killed that were from the leaf were all connected to the abuse I suffered as a child, and it was high time that they paid for their sins against me. The old man sent them away, but when they came back, they wouldn't learn their lesson, and so I vowed in secret to get my own revenge. How I did it would be up to me and on my terms. As for the others from various shinobi villages, I am sorry I had to kill Suna Ninbaki. But I owed Gekko Hayate, and I knew Gaara's sensei from the Chunin exams was the one responsible for it. I already sent a letter to Gaara explaining myself and that the man I killed was worthy prey," said Naruto, as he saw Tsunade looking at him in shock, and the fire daimyo was still frozen from hearing all of this. "What about the leaf itself? Don't you want to regain the lost bonds you had with the rookies or you're the Junin senseis?" said Jiraiya, as he couldn't believe his just starting out to be apprentice was, and saw the now young man look at him with red eyes that sent chills up his spine. "What about it? This place hated me the moment they learned of the fox in my body. As for lost bonds, almost of them are too scared to even look at me the same way as before," said Naruto, as he looked in their direction, and saw them flinch at his gaze like they were looking at a vengeful demon. "Almost all of them?" said Jiraiya, as he saw Naruto grin at him, and then turned to see the figure of one Hyuga Hinata walk up to the steps before standing face to face with the former shinobi of the leaf. "This wouldn't have been possible without Hinata-chan," said Naruto, as he proceeded to kiss Hinata right on the lips, and Hinata herself was returning it. Again, people were stunned further into silence, and could not begin to think for minutes on end on how to act on this. Of course, like all shocking moments, it came to an end, and this one ended when Danzo along with his rude Anbu appeared all around them with weapons drawn. "You are under arrest for deserting the leaf and killing Leaf Shinobi Demon Brat," said Danzo, as he didn't really care what slip of paper the boy signed with the Hokage and Fire Daimyo's seal on it. "Ah, if it isn't my old enemy Mr. Old One-Eyed Teme, and his merry band of rude butt fuckers. I was wondering when I would get a chance to get my payback on you for what you pulled to help get me banished. How has life treated you?" "Poorly, I imagine, since Orochimaru and Kabuto are dead and your secret partner to take down the leaf is no more," said Naruto, as grinned at the sight of Danzo's shocked face, and the angry look the man had at losing his outside asset in taking over the Leaf Village. "So it wasn't just Orochimaru wanting to stay hidden from the Akatsuki organization that I haven't heard from him recently," thought Danzo, as he saw Naruto's wrist blade on his right arm extend, and the boy looking hungry for a fight. "You really are a stupid baka for trying to fight me, Danzo, and with such a large group of weak shinobi. After all, I did kill Hoshigaki Kisame and Uchiha Itachi, so this is no real challenge for someone like me," said Naruto, as he saw Danzo now look at him with fear in his eyes, and the rude Anbu took a step back. "You're bluffing," said Danzo, as Naruto let out a laugh that sent shivers up the old warhawk's spine, and everyone else's too. "Do I? I have their ring-covered hands, Kisami's sword Samahata, and their skulls from their bodies hanging on my wall as trophies. I showed you, but then you might try to take them, and that would be a very bad thing to do, said Naruto, as he pulled out a shuriken disc with his left hand, and he was just daring them to fight him while Hinata was in her gentle fist stance ready to help defend him from harm. Demon abomination, kill him now, said Danzo, as he pointed his caned hand at Naruto, and the root shinobi charged forward with weapons ready to spill the young man's blood. Ah, so many people attacking and wanting me dead. It must be my birthday, said Naruto, as he threw the shuriken at the root Anbu, and several lost their heads while others lost limbs before several more were struck down by the young man's wrist blade. Hinata herself was also getting into it, as she was not about to have these mindless bakas attack her Naruto-kun, and began striking back with vicious precision. At the same time this was happening, Jiraiya along with Tsunade acted in fighting off the root Anbu too, and the fire daimyo was instantly surrounded by his samurai to escort him to safety. The rookies along with their Junin senseis were also watching this when something inside of them just snapped and the desire to protect their old comrade they had so selfishly on their part ignored since the beginning of Naruto's young life. They had felt so guilty over what happened to him, how they had betrayed their beliefs, and the very convictions they were taught to live by had hit them hard. They had seen someone who had grown up with nothing but the clothes, horrible as they were, on his back, and learning everything himself with no help from anyone, except a mild few, in the leaf hold his own where they struggled. This kid was at their level when he didn't have any help in learning while they had parents, senseis, and scrolls in Shinobi Library at their disposal. If Naruto had what they had growing up, he would have dominated them all, and would have been the prodigy to end all prodigies. Instead, Naruto's chances to become what he should have become had been wasted, and now he was being attacked by an old power-hungry war hawk that couldn't stand the sight of his own failures to do what he originally planned for the leaf. They owed their long-lost friend so much and they were going to return to him tenfold. Soon, the rookies along with their senseis were in the middle of the fray, and were now fighting Danzo's root Anbu much to everyone's surprise. Danzo himself couldn't even believe it, as he had assumed that the rookies and their Junin senseis would hate Gaki for what he was before going so far as to help kill the Kyuubi vessel. When his forces began to dwindle down to nothing, Danzo tried to get away, but was cut off by Tsunade's Anbu forces, and then by Naruto himself covered in the blood of root shinobi. Naruto, wait, listen to me, I can help you achieve power beyond anything you could imagine, and help you achieve your dream of being Hokage, said Danzo, as he was gutted by Naruto's now revealed jagged-edged sword, and then had his head pierced by the young hunter's wrist blade before it was ripped apart. Letting the dead war hawk fall to the ground, Naruto looked at the bandaged right arm of the man, and sensed there was something wrong about it before pulling the bandages off to reveal it was not the dead man's actual arm. What was more disturbing was Danzo had apparently surgically implanted every Sharingan from the Uchiha clan from the night of the massacre onto his arm, and was gearing up to use them in some way. Deciding not to let anyone get their hands on the arm, Naruto pulls out a canister of blue liquid solvent, and poured it on Danzo's body to let it dissolve into nothingness. With that done, Naruto then turned to look at the others having seen him do what he just did, and could tell they were still a bit nervous to approach. What? Oh, for Kami's sake, I'm not going to eat, skin, or mount your heads on my walls as trophies. I'm not Sasuke, said Naruto, as he sees them go less tense, and Hinata came up to hand him his mask. Here you are, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, as she handed it to him, and the multicolored-haired demon vessel put it back on, though Hinata got in a quick kiss before he did. Hey, when did you two start getting all romantic? Said Ino, as she was shocked when the two did their lip-locking moment before the fighting, and wanted answers. And of course details. Hinata explained that the time she spent with Naruto after her abduction allowed the two of them to really get to know one another and learn about each other's life during the 3 years he was banished. When Kiba asked if Hinata finally lost her virginity to Naruto, the Inuzuka regretted it when he was hit in the head by Ino, Tenten, and then Naruto himself put his wrist blade near his throat to make him repeat the question. Kiba decided to be smart, for once, and claim he had amnesia from the 2 fists that hit his skull while trying not to get his neck cut by the 2 blades on either side of it. Troublesome Naruto. You are the very definition of the word, said Shikamaru, as he saw Naruto smirking at him, and had to suppress the shiver that ran up his spine. "I wouldn't be Uzumaki Naruto if I wasn't Shikamaru," said Naruto, as he saw the Nara nod his head since that was true, and saw Lee look ready to have an old-fashioned spar with him. "Actually Naruto, your heritage was revealed shortly after you were banished by the orders of the Fire Daimyo after he got a lot of heat from all the people you helped on the missions you were sent on outside of Konoha, and told everyone you were the son of the Yondaime. You're officially a Namikaze now," said Jiraiya, as he saw so many people nearly shit their pants at this news, and even then only a few people felt guilty. What did Minato ever see in these people anyway? So I'm his son, huh? Well, it doesn't matter to me. I'm still Naruto and I'm not going to act like you think I should act. I'm going to be whatever I think I should be, and if you don't like then you can go in a hole somewhere to die," said Naruto, as he knew that so many people would want him to be like his old man, and say, "Minato was like this," or "Minato was like that," to him. Naruto was his own man and wasn't going to change because of someone else's standards they believe were set by his old man. Fair enough, but could you at least move back into Konoha again, Naruto? I mean, you're fully pardoned of all your crimes against the Leaf, and I could teach you everything I should have taught you when you were growing up, said Jiraiya, as he had gotten the crap kicked out of him by Tsunade and Hinata for being a piss-poor godfather. Of course, Tsunade got her ass kicked by Hinata too when the Hyuga girl found out that the woman was Naruto's godmother, and further proved a long-standing quote from the first Nara clan head. "Woman can go psycho kung fu whoop bitch on you and anyone else when angry. If they are angry, do not look them in the eyes, do not make a sound, and in another country for the next couple of decades until they calm down. Otherwise, you're fucking dead. I suppose. For a time I will stay in Konoha, but it's only temporarily," said Naruto, as he saw them a little relieved, but were sad to hear Naruto only staying for a short time, and not permanently. "And during that time, Naruto-kun is spending his time with me," thought Hinata, as she was not about to have anyone ruin her time with Naruto, and was going to milk every second she could with him. "I need to convince Naruto to stay on a more permanent basis. But how can I?" thought Tsunade, as she wanted Naruto to stay in Konoha, and needed her surrogate brother to stay in the Leaf. Though the problem now was how to convince Naruto to stay in the Leaf permanently. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.